Next p.m. So let's go over some of the things that we have coming up for you here over the next first hour. If you live in Cook County and you own your place, one of the biggest talkers over the last few months, really, and especially over the last several days, has been property taxes. In fact, if you were with us on Friday, we talked with the founder of a group that was organizing people in North Lawndale and that community for what they call the property tax bonfire. So there's two things that seem to really get people heated about this. One is the wait time to receive bills, and now the hikes that they're seeing that they've actually received the bills. Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas will be joining me in a bit to talk about it all. Also, it's the stuff, when you listen to that, that has a lot of people rethinking, even jumping in the home buying market. And in fact, the typical age of first-time home buyers right now has climbed to an all-time high of 40 years old. The National Association of Realtors is pointing to what they call an affordability crisis and inadequate housing supply. We have lined up a real estate broker to talk about where things stand and the implications that issues like that, as of right now, will have for many years to come. There's always a ripple effect, right? And we're standing by to take you to the Oval Office any minute now. The U.S. is one of 3 host nations for the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup, and the president will be meeting with the task force today to talk about the draw that's coming up in just a few weeks now that determines the group stage matchups and so much more. So exciting things to come, but some really important topics that we need to cover as well. And we're going to start with that topic that has a lot of people here in the city really heated, even though it is cold outside. It took a while to get our property tax bills in the mail, and now that we've seen them, suffice to say, people have a lot of questions about whether it's their eyes or their actual bills that need to be adjusted. Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas is here with me now. Thank you so much for your time on this Monday.
How are you today?
Doing all right, doing all right. But I got to wonder how people are feeling, those who have looked at their bills and they're trying to figure things out. Let's just start by addressing the wait time, first and foremost. So I believe they're about 4 months delayed. What happened there?
The delay is due to a computer company by the name of Tyler that was hired by the county 10 years ago. Unfortunately, the county board gave them $15 million up front. They were 7 years late, and there was only a $250,000 penalty clause in the contract. So there was no punishment for them to perform and to perform quickly. So sum and substance, they're late because it was a vendor who dragged his feet, and the county made a decision not to run parallel systems, which was a serious mistake. So you didn't have the old system and the new system running together. All you had was a new system that just couldn't get up and running.
Wow. And be it, what may, they were delayed, but of course the bill still needs to be paid by December 15th, whether you're paying it on your own or whether your mortgage lender is paying it, correct?
I've been doing this quite a while, so just let me tell you something. Very few people complained about not getting a bill because it gave them extra time to do what they wanted with the money. So what's happening is, usually following this December 15th date, there is a March date. That date is going to be extended to April, so they're going to have extra time there. Additionally, last year we went to Springfield and we got the interest rate reduced from 18 to 9%. So on this bill, if you go to cookcountytreasurer.com, not on December 15th, but on the day after, which is the penalty date, the 16th, okay, you can sign up for a 13-month payment period. Look at this bill. This is somebody whose bill in South Chicago went from $1,800 rather to $3,900. And here it shows you on the bill, where does your money go? It tells you whether or not your bill went up or down based upon a particular agency. And you see here the Board of Education is approximately 60% of the bill. So you don't have to pay this bill on December 15th. You can pay it over a 13-month period of time, a payment plan with 9% interest. You want to wonder why these bills for the residences, in particular, look at this. These were the hardest hit. The hardest hit were West Garfield Park, which is up 133%, North Lawndale, which is up 99%, and Englewood, which is up 82%. Let me show you the Englewood bill. Here, this person, it was $988. It's gone up to
Oh my
$2,300. But
goodness.
talked about the bonfire this weekend. Look at this. If you read your bill, it says that there was a TIF in the city of Chicago that added $1,500 to this bill. So people are coming to cookcountytreasurer.com. They are downloading their bill. They are looking at where their money goes to understand that these 14 taxing agencies on the left side either lowered or raised their bill. So this bill, it was all went to TIFs, everything else went down. On this bill, which is West Garfield Park, again, you have a TIF that raised this area by $1,142, and all the other agencies raised it, so it's up $1,300. So read your bill is really important. Being able to pay on this payment plan is important. And finally, the people who complain the most are the people who never vote. In the last election, 80% of the people in the city of Chicago did not bother to vote. And that's important. So the message is, if you don't like what's happening, you just can't complain. You got to get up, get out, and vote. And right now, the city of Chicago on the 5th floor is holding a public hearings. You can go there. Every citizen in Cook County who owns a home can go over there and complain about this. So these are public hearings. You got to let people hear your voice. It's important.
Yeah, I want to break down a few of the things that you mentioned there because you talked about my comments about the founder of a group in North Lawndale that had that bonfire over the weekend. He mentioned on Friday when we talked to him that some people have 100% increases. You said that that's in part due to a tip, but how is that possible when we're talking about neighborhoods that have a median income of $20,000 or $30,000?
It's possible. It's possible when the city council votes on improvements, and those improvements include something that allows the entire group of residences and commercial buildings to pay more. And I don't know what the TIF was in Englewood or West Garfield Park or Lawndale, but I listened to that clip that you did, and a lot of those homeowners were saying, why am I paying $1,500 for this TIF? And what is a TIF, which is a whole other issue.
Yeah.
I just want to add something here.
Sure.
When you have a commercial base like we have in the city of Chicago, and behind me are all these amazing commercial buildings, banks, law offices, and they are a third empty, their taxes are going to go down, and we've seen their taxes go down by $3 billion. Somebody has to pick that up. So the people who are picking it up are the residences and the people who are still living here. But fact of the matter is that a lot of the commercial buildings are going down. I'm going to give you an example. Westin Hotel just sold. Owner Westin Hotel said, I'm out of here. That building sold for over $200 million a few years ago. And the selling price on it recently was $71 million. Oh. So we have an issue with what's happening with the businesses in the city, because if they don't feel that it's viable and they don't feel it's a friendly place to do business where they're not killed on property taxes, they're going to exit, and you're going to experience what people are feeling, which is called the I'm out of here syndrome. And businesses are feeling I'm out of here. They're dealing with this head tax at the city right now. And the issue is, will that drive more businesses out? And we don't know, but that's the fear.
Yeah.
That's what they're right now.
But are the suburbs seeing this increase?
Modestly, because it is the city that got reassessed this year, not the suburbs. The suburbs are on caps, so they're like 4%, 5%,
Yeah.
Hal Dardick did this study with Todd Lighty and Chris Silver in my office. We have a research department here that doesn't do anything except study inequities in the property tax system. Incidentally, we did a study a few months ago that shows that African Americans and Latinos, residential, do not appeal their property taxes. Less than a quarter of their residences appeal their taxes. So this person probably, who went from $900 to $2,300, didn't appeal. Probably did not appeal because they don't know that they can appeal.
Well, but of course, you've come on our show before and talked about appealing them. And when you talk about the fact that it's black and brown neighborhoods that are hit the hardest versus,
I'll tell you what.
not seeing black and brown people at the polls, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they don't vote. They don't vote. But in these neighborhoods, what's happened is, I'm going to use Englewood as an example. Englewood's like the new Lincoln Park. We have Hispanics coming to the counter every day and saying, you know what? What's available in Englewood? What's available in Englewood? They're going in, they're buying a piece of property or piece of land for 50,000. They're putting a home or reconstructing an older home on this property, and it's now worth $500,000. It's beautiful. You drive through Englewood and you're looking around and you're saying, this is just gorgeous. So that home that was nothing, now worth 500,000, is getting taxed because they improved it. So a lot of these homes are being taxed because they're a better, a nicer, and a more rehabbed place to live.
Yeah, but that's one of the things I guess we talked about with that founder on Friday is the catch-22 of improving your neighborhood.
You improve your neighborhood, and when the businesses aren't paying, you're going to have to pick it up. That's what's happening, and you can think that's how the assessor, Kagi, ended up assessing these residences. He said, well, you know what? Commercial's going down. I'm going to drive residences up. And that's exactly what Kagi did.
Wow. So what are some of the other things that people maybe overlook in their bills when they receive them or get wrong that need to be challenged?
Okay, so at the bottom of your bill on the left-hand side, there's a section that says exemptions. So it's homeowner if you've lived there for a year, senior if you're over 65, senior freeze if you're over 65 and making under 65,000 a year, under 65,000 a year. These are exemptions. If you go to cookcountytreasurer.com, you can put in your address. You'll know you're in the right place because you're going to see a picture of your house. Okay. Now you got the picture of your house. You scroll down. There's a grid for homeowners, seniors, senior citizen freeze, veterans, disabled veterans, and it will tell you yes, 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 or no, no, no. When you see no, 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 that means you didn't get it. You could have missed your homeowner for 4 years, equaling 500 a year, 2,000 over 4 years. Senior, same thing, 500 a year, 4 years. Senior citizen free, same thing, 4 years, 500. That's $6,000. 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. People are missing 6,000 off of their bills. The other thing is people forget and they overpay. So you can get this bill. Look at this bill right here. You owe 2,360. You're slightly dyslexic. You read the bill and you read it as 3,200, and that's what you send me. So now you've overpaid. My computer will tell you if you've overpaid and what year going back 20 years. We're sitting on $78 million worth of overpayments. My computer will tell you, you apply online, you can get your money back within 4 to 6 weeks. We have a radio show running called Black Houses Matter on VON every Monday at 11:30. We have given back $400 million to African Americans who simply don't know that they're entitled to these exemptions and refunds. And now we're doing Latino Houses Matter. We've given back over $200 million. They don't understand the exemption process. People in Chicago do not wake up in the morning and say, did I get an exemption? Did I get a homeowner's exemption? Did I get a senior exemption? Did I get a disabled veterans exemption? They don't know. They just get up and go to work and are trying to make a living while they're paying their electric bill, trying to buy a chicken, trying to buy a turkey for Thanksgiving. They don't wake up in the morning and say, did I get an exemption? So we're trying to teach people about that. Get to cookcountytreasurer.com. Put in your address. There's a wealth of information about your property, and you may have some money coming back.
Yeah, they may not wake up in the morning thinking, do I have something coming back? But they definitely wake up when they see these bills wondering, how am I going to pay this? One of our reporters has even covered people in the south and southwest suburbs that have wondered how they're going to stay in their homes.
Look, if you look at the governmental situation, like the city of Chicago, if I have $2,000 and I spend $10,000, somebody has to pick up the extra $8,000. And what's happening in the city of Chicago is the council spent an extra almost $600 million The residences are picking it up. It's the same thing in the south suburbs. The collection rate on property taxes is very low in the south suburbs. We've done a ton of studies on that. So the people who are paying more because a lot of people just aren't paying at all.
So what suburbs are the ones that you're saying are kind of unaffected right now versus those we've done stories on that are seeing it skyrocket just like it is in the city?
That's a tough question because there's, 80 different townships here. So, we've got a dashboard and I could get back to you on that and go through each one of the suburbs, but I don't have it readily in front of me. I can tell you that the suburbs right now, the south suburbs are hurting quite a bit, but like Skokie, Wilmette, they seem to be doing better.
So once again, we're dealing with Black and brown people.
Minority areas.
Right.
Much lower collection rate than the northern suburbs. Mm-hmm. Generally, our collection rate is around 99%. 99%. I just want to add, I said that people don't get crazy because they don't get a bill because they get to hold this money extra for a while, but we have had, and we didn't turn on our computer until Friday, but people started paying on Wednesday. We had a trial run up, mm-hmm. and they came in and started paying. 51,000 people have already paid $238 million. That's astounding.
Well, that's wonderful, and I hope that it all comes in. I am concerned about those who are trying to figure all of this out right now. So let me ask you this. I know our time is pretty short here. What kind of impact do you see situations like this having on the long term for Chicagoland communities?
Look, this city needs a long-range plan to figure out how to bring business back and keep residents here. You can't have a mentality where people are saying, I got to get out of here. Where the owner of the Drake Hotel says, I got to get out of here. Or the owner of the Westin Hotel says, I got to get out of here. Or someone who works for me has a one-bedroom apartment and says to me, hey, look, you know what? My assessments and my taxes are higher than my mortgage. How can I have a one-bedroom apartment when it's costing me $4,500 a month to live there? I'm better off to rent. So we need to come to some conclusion about what we're going to do about the fact that this bill, 60% of, or 60 to 65% of it is going to public schools. 60 to 65% of it is going to public schools. We need to rethink how we're funding our government. And the $600 million that I talked about that's driving the city up, we're going to have to reduce our spending. We're going to have to tighten our belts, and everybody's going to have to suffer a little bit. Or if there's an increase, people are going to have to feel like they're getting something for it. Because I'll give you an example. Maybe people won't mind paying an extra $50 if they could walk their dog at night without feeling like they're getting mugged, right? Or having a gold chain ripped off their necks. I think if people felt safe, they wouldn't mind paying a little bit more. But they don't have that feeling right now. There's a pervasive feeling of fear with regard to crime. And I think that November and December will probably get worse because these SNAP benefits have been cut off, and people are just going to come to any area that they feel that's wealthy and take what they can take. They're going to go into the drugstores and take what they can take. They're going to go into stores and take what they can take.
Okay, I have about a minute left with you. I know you have something else, a prior engagement to get to. You are among a list of people to watch who may be considering running for mayor as you talk about these many issues with the city and with the county here. I spoke to State Comptroller Susana Mendoza on Friday. She said she's on the list, and she says that she is keeping the door open. Where do you stand?
I'm in, and I'm not getting out. I just haven't announced.
That sounded like an announcement to me.
Okay.
Okay.
I get out. Why would I? This city needs a gray-haired grandmother who's got the kahunas to get everybody in shape, get everybody in a room, say this is the pie. You can't have a whole piece of it. You can have part of the pie. You can't have the whole pie. And get this train back on track because it's off track. And I think I know how to do it. I've got a great record in my office, and I'm ready. I'm ready for the challenge. I'm ready to move forward.
So all right. Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas, we appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Thanksgiving. Sounds like we will be talking to you a lot more in the days, weeks, and the next year to come. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. Take care. It's 1:20 right now. Let's take a quick break, everyone, and we'll be right back.
our property tax.
Oh my. Sitting here speaking with meteorologist Caitlin Cody about property taxes before we
Yes.
talk about the weather, because you're in Indiana. You said yours is 1%.
1%.
It's just a little bit different.
The increase for some people is the total amount of my taxes for the year.
Wow. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the weather, shall we?
Yeah, okay.
Today, not too bad. Just a little cooler outside.
Yeah, okay, so this morning, remember how beautiful it was? It was so bright. We had sunshine over our city. Now the clouds are here.
Yes.
Yeah. The
Marked
clouds
difference.
have been, on the rise. And that's going to be the case through the rest of the afternoon. We're going to be fighting with these clouds. Temperature-wise, though, similar to yesterday, I expect the upper 40s, which is normal for this time of year. 48 is normal. That's where we're going to be. The chance for rain, though, is back as soon as tonight. Scattered showers, that's going to continue into tomorrow as well. So tomorrow, until about mid-afternoon, we have the chance for some wet weather around. Luckily, though, if you take a look at the lows, we're staying in the upper 30s, so I expect it to be just rain. Tomorrow's high, only 42, so it's going to be cold tomorrow, most of the day in the 30s. And then on Wednesday, 47, mostly cloudy. More rain in the forecast. Thursday afternoon, Friday, scattered showers.
The rain on your graphic looks a little different on Thursday and Friday versus Tuesday.
Yeah, tomorrow's going to be a light rain and maybe a bit of a mist out there.
Okay.
Yes. And then temperatures looking good on Thursday, 55. Unfortunate that we have the potential for rain. And then into even Saturday morning, we could see a little bit of wet weather this weekend. I know a big question about the Bears game. Sunday, upper 40s, low 50s. And that Saturday 20% for rain. That's going to be early. And then the rest of the day is looking dry. Sunday's looking good too. This far out. How was your weekend?
Weekend was great. You know what? I'm sitting here though as you're talking, and I'm like, let me check these dates because no, the game against the Steelers is here on Sunday. But I was really thinking about Friday is when the lights come on the tree in Millennium Park.
Oh yeah,
the 21st. So looking back at your forecast, I'm like, well,
hopefully we can get it in. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's still so far out, but there is a chance for some wet weather around. I can't believe next week is Thanksgiving.
I know.
I just made my Thanksgiving order today for a pickup. I know. So you're making your plans.
Yeah.
These holidays are just going to be coming quicker than you know. And today, I know at noon, they released the sign up for the Christmas train here in Chicago.
Oh, yeah, and it doesn't go, it goes so quickly.
Yeah.
You do not have a lot of time to get on that.
I
In
think
fact,
we're already all
I was
booked.
going to say, I bet it's already. We sold out in 2 minutes.
Because it's so affordable.
Sold out in 2 minutes.
So affordable.
$10.
Yeah.
So for those of you all who got the tickets, great for you. Congratulations. But there's a million things you can do around Chicagoland.
Yeah.
Weather permitting, during the holidays.
Yes, you gotta make those plans now. Fill up your calendar because we're cruising.
Yeah.
We're cruising at this point.
I'm really looking at Friday into Saturday as there's just so much going on, which really kicks off the season.
Yeah. Lighting
and we're
up
gonna
the
have
tree.
rain for it.
Well, hopefully we get some dry hours then.
Okay.
Not a
All
total
right.
washout.
Yeah. I love to see them. And you don't love the traffic once it's over, but I love to see how many people come downtown
know.
for the tree lighting ceremony.
It's super fun. And you know what? Take rain over snow sometimes,
That's true.
especially if you're going to be traveling.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, the snow kind of fits with once we get into December, right?
Yeah.
Last week felt like a whole lot. Like, wait, pump the brakes.
This past
just a
weekend was
bit.
confusing. That's why I asked, because Saturday it was so warm, and then Sunday it was like, okay, I'm not going outside.
See, I was inside watching football all day yesterday.
Yeah, don't blame you.
Yeah,
The weather was terrible
So I really
anyways.
feel the difference.
Yeah.
Thank you, Caitlin. We'll be right back. 135 right now. And while homeownership can help build wealth and move you and your family forward financially, as you can see in our conversations today, it is not for the faint at heart for many reasons, especially right now. And now new reports show that the share of first-time home buyers nationally has dropped to a record low of just 21%. So Heather Fowler is a real estate broker with Christie's International Real Estate. She is joining me now to look at the numbers and what's behind them, what kind of long-term impact this news could have for all of us. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So, first-time home buyers, the median age right now is 40. That sounds pretty wild. So, some say that means that people will be building less housing wealth and will likely have fewer moves over a lifetime as a result. What's your reaction?
I mean, I understand the response for that, but I also think that people are just waiting longer to do other major things in life, like get married or have kids. People are really focusing on their careers and making sure that that's settled before they move on to other things. And I get it, home ownership is a really big financial responsibility. And I think they just want to have things in place. There is, low inventory, but I also just think there's other things that are more important than home ownership.
Yeah, what do you think is contributing to the change that we're seeing?
Again, I think it's, people focusing on their careers, they're doing more degrees. You don't graduate with a bachelor's degree, you get a master's degree, or you go on, you get more career experience. And I think that because of that, just other things that are major life events like getting married or having kids, those are also happening later as a result.
Mm-hmm. So, what does delayed home ownership, though, translate into financially? Because I can remember buying my first place. I think I was like 27 or 28, still not married, and I'm 40 plus. So, it was still something that was like, financially, I wanted to check that box in terms of growing over time, even if those other components weren't a part of my picture for that period of time in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you were definitely ahead of the curve with that. I mean, myself, like homeownership was important for me. And so the first time I bought a home, I was 30, but most of my peers were not doing that. I do think as a result, I'm in my fourth home now. And because I've had homes over time and I've renovated them, I've been able to really grow my equity. So I do have that where other peers don't have the same amount of equity in their home as I do.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's really what I wanted to get at is the building aspect of it, how that translates into some things later on in life. Are FHA and VA loans still available to people?
They're definitely still available. They're just not something, we still are in a time of multiple offer situations. And typically, in my experience with FHA or VA loans, the down payment is lower. And so it's difficult to compete with someone who has cash or who are putting more money down on the home.
Mm-hmm. So what are some cost saving? I mean, if people are trying to achieve this dream, what are some of the things that come into play in terms of cost savings that they could access?
I know a lot of people have been living with family members in order to raise more money, to save more money, or they've been maybe not taking as fancy of a vacation. Maybe they're still taking vacations, just not spending as much money. But they've been able to, I think that down payment is so important, and being able to put more money down to show the seriousness of your purchase really helps for sellers when they're comparing different offers.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you consider a good down payment in this time period?
It really depends on the location. Real estate is just so hyper local.
Mm-hmm.
So I predominantly focus on the North Shore, and on the North Shore, 20% would be the minimum. And people are looking at more than that, but that's not the standard all across the board. It's different for different regions.
Yeah.
And I would definitely reach out to a real estate agent who does a lot of business in the area that someone is looking at and ask them for what it would be. It's just very, again, it's hyper local.
Sure. For the North Shore, what does inventory look like right now? Like, is it a market that a first-time home buyer could get in on the North Shore right now?
You can definitely get into it, and I've represented several first-time home buyers in my career. I've represented several this year, but you really need to make sure that you have an experienced agent who knows what they're doing and who knows how to navigate everything. Offers are not just what is written on paper, it also is the agent that comes with it and their knowledge, their experience, their references, and their ability to get it from start to finish. Sellers would, there's just a lot of inconsistency, and sellers, when they list their home for sale, they want to know that it's a sure thing.
Yeah, and let's talk about how this, when we talk about an affordability crisis, that also translates into new construction and builders having to deal with inflation right now and tariffs and permitting issues as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's definitely very hard for them. The material costs are incredibly high. I've never seen them go up so quickly. From maybe 5 years ago, they were much lower. But I think a lot of different areas, different like cities, municipalities, villages, they need to look at this housing and they need to be able to be more flexible with their zoning. There's a lot of property that might be available for new construction housing, but it's just not zoned for that right now. So I think it's really important that we think outside of the box and we find other alternatives to really help with housing. Because again, on the North Shore where I am, there's just not a lot of opportunity for new construction, and I would really love to see that change.
Yeah, let's talk about more changes that need to be made. What are some, when you look at what you do on a regular basis, what are some areas where you say reform needs to come to this area?
I don't know how reform is possible, but I would really like to see just so many agents do things so differently, and some people do them less professionally or just less like I do it as a profession. This is something that I do every day. I'm very mindful with how I do my business, and I want my clients to feel a relief. It's not something that you can Google, it's not something that you can chat GPT. It's just, it's something that's very important. I operate from a position of trusted advisor, and I think it's really important for people to feel that with the agent that they're working with because it's a really large financial transaction.
It is. It might be the largest one in someone's lifetime. So, what are some other pieces of advice you would give for first-time home buyers?
I would say do your research. I would ask your peers or your parents or your parents' friends, who have you worked with? What do you recommend? What did you like about the person? And I would conduct interviews. I think it's really important to make sure that it's a good fit. Like we said, the inventory is low and you may be working with your agent for quite a long time looking for a home. And I think it's really important that you feel that you can trust the agent that you're working with and that you feel comfortable and you feel like that they understand you, you understand them, and that it's a really great working relationship.
What are some pitfalls that people end up in? I mean, one question that was just posed is like, what if people don't want to put anything down on a home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, it just depends again on the market that you're looking in. Not all the markets are the same as the North Shore of Chicago, and I totally understand that. So I think it is possible to put down 0%. There are loans that will allow that, specifically VA loans. But, it just really depends on the area that you're looking in and what your options are.
What were your thoughts on the possibility of a 50-year mortgage? Just while I have you here, I do want to hear your thoughts on it.
I mean, does anyone want to have that hanging over their head? I think it's nice if you don't think, I don't know, if you don't think that maybe you're going to sell the house before you have to pay it all. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it as much. It's definitely a new concept, but I wouldn't want to have a bill for 50 years personally.
Yeah, I guess just going back into the things that could allow someone to walk into the market, maybe, a lower number that you're seeing in the beginning at least would possibly help someone to make the decision to go now.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. I think as everything in real estate, there's so many different things to adjust and that will affect other things. So it's
Mm-hmm.
important to really have a good understanding of all those elements when making a decision. And I like to do that when I sit down with my clients and just make sure they're aware of all the steps. Um, I think it could be good with a 50-year mortgage, like you said, to keep the initial costs low, but I do think it would severely impact your ability to build equity.
Yeah, yeah. So, obviously, looking at a report like this about numbers dropping in terms of how many overall first time home buyers there are or the age going up kind of paints the picture of a grim market. Are there some things that actually show promise to you for the real estate market right now?
I mean, I'm encouraged that people are still participating in the market. People still have things to do, they still have homes to move on to. And I think it's been interesting seeing a lot of people who have larger homes that they don't necessarily need anymore. I've seen really nice moments where they sell it to a family who needs more space. Um, but I mean, I think there's always positive things. We're talking about people's homes and where they spend all of their time, where they rest their head. And I really love to be part of the process to see people finding their home and, just enjoying it. I love following my clients on Instagram and just seeing all their photos of them living their life in the new home that I helped them find. It's very fulfilling.
Yeah. How when you talk about following people along, we had our first conversation today was with the Cook County treasurer about property taxes. When you are following along and you see these bills go out, how do you tell people, especially someone who's dealing with it for the first time, a higher number than what they anticipated? How do you go about helping them through that sticker shock?
I always remind them that that's not a bill they need to write a check for right now. Typically, the mortgage company or the escrow will pay it because that's often a phone call that I will get from clients saying,
Mm-hmm.
like, I didn't know this bill was due. And so I explained to them about the escrow account, that they had when they bought the house and how that will pay it. But I always process through, I look at it when we buy the house and I look and see, is it assessed properly? Is it higher than the price that they're purchasing it at? Is there a way that we can appeal the property taxes? There's home ownership, different, there's a lot of different areas that you can get them reduced,
All right,
or at
Heather,
least try.
or at least try. Yeah, that's a big part of it. You get 100% of the things that you ask for sometimes, but nothing that you don't ask for. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, everyone. So that was Heather Fowler with Christie's International Real Estate. Certainly appreciate her time today. But we do want to get back now. I mentioned right off the top of our show, we were waiting on a meeting at the Oval Office to begin. This was the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup Task Force. President Trump is going to be speaking. Let's listen in.
This past summer, the United States hosted the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup, and it was great. I actually went to a match, and it was amazing. It was a big success, too, wasn't it? It was sort of like a preview of what's to come. And now we're getting ready for an even bigger event next year as we host the official 2026 FIFA World Cup. That's the big one. The World Cup tournament. This will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, even for our country, because frankly, this goes to countries, everybody wants it. I guess it's going all over the world. Do you know who's getting it the next time around? Who's getting it? Has that been selected?
The next one will be Morocco, Spain, and Portugal.
That's good.
With 3 matches at the beginning in South America, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. And the one after will be Saudi Arabia in 2034.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Well, we have the king coming, Crown Prince is coming tomorrow. This will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to showcase the greatness of American world-class athletic competition as we celebrate our nation's 250th year. The World Cup will also be an incredibly significant economic opportunity for countless American workers and businesses. It's expected to drive more than $30 billion, Johnny. I don't know about that. That sounds like a lot of money.
No, that's true.
Are you sure?
100%.
How much does the country get out of that?
30 billion.
20%?
Is the economic
No,
impact.
do we get like a percentage of the gross or anything?
That's for negotiation.
That's right. And it's going to create nearly 200,000 jobs for America. Since the creation of the White House FIFA Task Force earlier this year, Secretary Rubio's team at the State Department has worked tirelessly with the Department of Homeland Security to ensure that soccer fans from all around the world are properly vetted and able to come to the United States next summer easily. Before I took office, it would often take a year to get a travel visa, but because of the administration's hard work, now in more than 80% of the world, think of that, the wait time for a visa is 60 days or less. For those who intend to join us for the World Cup, I strongly encourage you to apply right away. And I want to thank FIFA Task Force and Secretary Rubio for the great job. Marco's doing a fantastic job in many ways, too. So I want to just thank you all for a great job. Marco, you're doing a great job. Beyond even this, we're also creating what we're calling the FIFA Prioritized Appointment Scheduling System. That's a hard one for most people to remember, but it's there nevertheless. And this will allow World Cup ticket holders with long wait times to opt with FIFA for a prioritized interview. And I've directed my administration to do everything within the power to make the 2026 World Cup an unprecedented success. I think it's going to be the greatest. And we are setting records on ticket sales. Nobody's ever really, and FIFA's never, you know, if you look at the numbers, nobody's ever seen anything like the kind of numbers we're doing. The early ticket sales are through the roof, and much of it is even sold out. So congratulations, Johnny. And I'd like to ask Johnny to say a few words. He's really done an incredible job. He's got unbelievable spirit and personality and talent and intelligence, I always like to say, because it's all a part of it. But the job you've done is based on what's happening unprecedented. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you. Thank you, President. Thank you very much. I would like to start really by thanking you, Mr. President, Secretary Rubio, Secretary Noem, Andrew, your entire team for approving and making this very important announcement today. The FIFA Pass is being announced, the prioritized appointment scheduling system. That's the way people will remember it. So if you have a ticket for the World Cup, you can have a prioritized appointment to get your visa, because we said it the very first time we met, Mr. President, America welcomes the world. America will welcome the world here next year. We will have between 6 and 7 million tickets sold for the matches. We will have between 5 and 10 million people coming to America from all over the world to enjoy the World Cup. And with this FIFA Pass, we can make sure that those who buy a ticket that are legitimate football fans or soccer fans, they can come and attend the World Cup in the best conditions, starting from getting their visa and then coming, of course, in the country to enjoy. You mentioned the economic impact, the 30 billion, 200,000 jobs, and this is just for the World Cup, and we will build on that to make soccer even greater here. You are the #1 country in the world, the United States of America, Mr. President. You have to be the #1 country as well in the #1 sport in the world. So we have to work for that, and we will do that, and the World Cup will be very, very significant in this respect. So big thank you to you, to the White House Task Force, to everyone involved, and we are celebrating next year not just the 250 years, but also the greatest and most inclusive World Cup ever. We'll have 6 billion people watching. We have the draw coming up on the 5th of December here at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. 1 billion people watching the draw to find out who plays whom and where. We have 32 teams already qualified. before or by tomorrow night, we'll have 42 out of 48 qualified. So a quarter of the world will be here, and we are looking very much forward. So thanks for the support, thanks for the great work, and always happy to be here at home, if I can say that.
You are home. We are. There's your beautiful trophy right there.
Yeah.
You are. And a big part of it, too. Marco, would you say a few words?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, for getting the games, because this happened in your first term when the Cup came here, and it's a major undertaking. So we've deployed over 400 additional consular officers around the world to deal with that, in some cases doubling the size of the consular presence in our embassies in certain countries. And the good news now is that about 80% of the world you can get an appointment within 60 days. It used to take, half a year or longer, and now sometimes it took, now you can get it in less than 2 months, where in places it took over a year. In places, for example, like Brazil and Argentina, it took over a year to get an appointment. Now you can get it in less than 2 months. So our advice to everybody is, if you have a ticket for any of the games, you need to apply if you haven't done so as soon as possible. Don't wait till the last minute. Your ticket is not a visa. It doesn't guarantee admission to the U.S. It guarantees you an expedited appointment. You're still going to go through the same vetting. We're going to do the same vetting as anybody else would get. The only difference here is we're moving them up in the queue. We're moving them up faster. But my advice to everyone that's watching around the world is, if you intend to come to the games, you have to have a ticket. You need to apply. Apply as soon as possible. You're going to get your interview within 6 to 8 weeks, and move forward from there. Don't wait till the last minute to do it. Thank you.
Mr. Congressman, would you like to say something?
Well, first of all, Mr. President, none of this would have happened without your leadership securing this during your first term. I tell my colleagues all the time, this will be the largest sporting event in the history of the world. We expand from 32 to 48 teams for the first time ever. We're doing it with Mexico and Canada, but obviously the 11 host cities will be here in the United States, and it's going to have a $30 billion impact economically in this country. And so it has been a team effort by everybody, but I also want to thank President Infantino and obviously you, Mr. President, and your entire team, Andrew and Nick and everybody. It is going to be an unbelievable sporting event next summer.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Andrew, would you like to say something?
Sure. I think
we'll have somebody much more important.
much more important. And honestly, without her work, without Secretary of State Rubio's work in the State Department, this would not happen. And without your leadership and your vision, this would not have happened. I think 2 key points. One that the Secretary of State already highlighted. This is a welcoming message to the world without going around the safety and security procedures. It's so key to make sure that this World Cup is safe and secure, and the White House Task Force is working every day to make sure that's the case. And also, as Congressman LaHood said, the economic benefits for American businesses, both small and large, from a $30 billion event like this. So really, thanks to all the White House Task Force members, from Secretary Rubio to Secretary Noem. The 2 notice of funding opportunities that went out to the cities and states last month were really key from the safety and security perspective. To Deputy Chief of Staff Luna, who is integral in this whole process, to the White House Task Force members that are standing in the back of the room today and that couldn't be here. Without your hard work, this would not have happened, and I really can't thank you enough for really the best team I've ever been a part of. And also to FIFA, to the President Gianni Infantino, my good friend Carlos Cordiero. Your desire to make this World Cup the best yet, it's contagious. Every single day I come in and think, what can we do to make this even better? And Mr. President, your vision more than anything. I think it takes a unique visionary to be able to go and see a sporting event and realize that this can be one of the greatest cultural events in world history. And I think there are very few people, aside from the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, that can do that undertaking. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Chrissy?
Well, Mr. President, thank you for Andrew. Thank you for making him the head of our FIFA task force. He's fantastic. And Nick has been a rock star in facilitating all of our meetings, getting everybody together, and making sure that we're prepared to host this event. And it's going to be the world's largest sporting event ever hosted, and it's happening under your leadership. So every department has been working, but the Department of Homeland Security is working on making sure people can travel here safely. They know that they're welcome to the United States, that each of these events will be cooperative events with our cities to make sure that the security needs are met. We put out over $600 million worth of grants to the 11 host cities that they'll have the advantage to partner on technologies and screening technologies, drone technology, counter UAS as well will be implemented. So we'll be prepared to host it safely, but also with Marco's leadership at the State Department, making sure that people that come in on these tourist visas are coming in thoroughly vetted, just like anyone who would travel here, and they would come and enjoy our country, and then they would go home in a timely manner. So we're excited about that, and we're excited to partner with you, Mr. President, on creating memories for people around the world that will make them not just fall in love with the United States, but also fall in love with the sport of soccer.
Well, thank you. How many games are there, Johnny, total?
Total 104 games, meaning 104 Super Bowls.
Listening in there to the FIFA World Cup 2026 World Cup Task Force meeting with President Trump and also Gianni Infantino. He is the president of the Federation International Football Association there, so FIFA, who we're kind of talking through what we can expect. They said this will be the largest tournament in World Cup history, one of the biggest international sporting events ever hosted on U.S. soil. They have now announced, which was the big part of this meeting, the FIFA Pass scheduling system to get visas for international fans who want to attend, and they are expecting about 5 million visitors for this. The next thing to come in this, as they get closer and closer to the FIFA World Cup actually happening, will be the draw. That is on December 5th, and that puts together the matchups for the FIFA. So we're looking for that ahead. Of course, we are one of 3 of the host nations. It's Canada, Mexico, and the United States. But that draw happening on December 5th will put all of the other nations in as to where they're going to be. There's a $30 billion expected economic impact for the U.S. from having the World Cup in 2026. So this is a big deal. Always like to bring things back home to Illinois here. And one of the speakers that you heard from there was Illinois Congressman Darren LaHood. He is the co-chair of the Congressional Soccer Caucus. So that's why he is participating in these meetings as a part of the White House Task Force on the FIFA World Cup 2026. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about another major announcement that the president had just a few weeks ago, and that was on slashing the prices for popular weight loss drugs. We're going to talk about it now, starting to happen when we come back from this break. All right, just about 2:05, everyone. Thanks for staying with us now in our 2 o'clock hour of Chicago Live. There is plenty to come in this hour, just kind of going over a few things that we have lined up for you. We're going to talk about a big announcement coming out of Aurora. They have a new electric bus fleet. So this is really taking us into the future, a cleaner future possibly for many districts to kind of look at, and they may, obviously follow suit. We're going to talk about a DoorDash settlement. This with the city of Chicago. They are resolving this lawsuit that had claims that the company had engaged in deceptive and unfair business practices at the expense of restaurants, consumers, and delivery drivers. So there's a lot to talk about there. We're also going to talk about tax increases that are proposed in Mayor Johnson's new budget. We're going to bring up our political reporter, Paris Schutz, to talk more about a tweet, in fact, that he put out that has a lot of people talking, kind of listing out a lot of the proposals there that people are like, what? We'll talk with him about that. But we're starting here with a conversation. President Donald Trump recently struck a deal with Novo Nordisk and their chief rival, Eli Lilly, to make their popular weight loss drugs, these GLP-1 drugs that you hear about all the time, Wegovy, Ozempic, to make them all more accessible, more affordable for Americans. And so I want to bring in Dr. Sue Ojagir to talk a little bit more about what we can expect, the good, the bad of it all. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure being here.
What was your initial reaction when you heard about this announcement, this new development here in cutting costs for these drugs?
I was ecstatic upon hearing the news. The price drop is really about affordability and access. So for long, patients have been in cash and have been priced out completely. So now we're seeing the cost come down. And the bigger goal here is to make these medications affordable across the board. So it's definitely a win.
I mentioned the fact that they are popular weight loss drugs, but when you talk about making them more affordable, obviously that's not the biggest aspect of why that is important. They're also very critical for people who may have things like diabetes.
Yes, that is correct. They do have a dual purpose. It's used primarily for the diabetes control as well as anti-obesity medication. So it's a win on both ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Okay, does this help you if you have health insurance, or is it only for cash paying customers?
We would like to think over time it would definitely benefit on both ends for patients. Primarily speaking, for cash paying patients, seeing it go from the introductory price of starting off at $1,000 out of pocket, it's definitely not something that many patients could afford, but coming down to about $350 a month and possibly going down even lower to about $200 a month is something that is significantly of a drop and a decrease. So it's going down progressively, and we're hoping for it to become manageable for many patients to afford.
Yeah, Novo Nordisk now is announcing their cuts direct to consumer prices for Wegovy and Ozempic to that $350 that she just mentioned there. They also talked about an introductory price that I want to ask you about here, this $199 a month to start. Does that not get people hooked possibly before the price is going to go up on them?
It is a great way to hook patients on, but think of it this way. It's a great onboarding to help patients to start off the medications, because typically that's where patients need to be titrated on. So being that they have to start it at a lower dose, it does help with initial costs for them to get comfortable with, and possibly have to maybe maintained at the lower doses. But all depends on each patient, and each patient has to be analyzed individually with their practitioner if they need to titrate up. But it is a good way to start off for them to get into the medication to be prescribed.
But what happens if you stop taking it?
So it's all about finding the maintenance dose that's best for each patient. You don't want to abruptly stop any medication. You just have to find the right dose that's going to benefit the patient. And again, speaking with your medical practitioner and making that decision together, what dose is going to be the effective dosage for you to be stable on the medication.
But
some patients do
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Finish. Go ahead.
Some patients do need a maintenance dose if they have been at goal for a certain amount of months, or and maintaining at a lower dose or just staying at the dose that they're currently on is something that most practitioners keep their patients on.
I guess I wonder, is it, and I'm asking this because I really just don't know. You say maintenance. Does that mean someone may have to stay on these drugs the rest of their life? Or is
Some
there a set period of time?
So we come into the gray area now. If this is something that if you come off of it, will all of your numbers skyrocket back up? But it's incorporating lifestyle changes as well as dietary modifications, having a healthier, lifestyle modifications along with taking the medications that would help you possibly go to a lower dose and maybe come off of it for a certain amount of time. But some patients feel that they're comfortable with staying on a lower dose and being there depending if that's what their goal is, to stay at that dose at a certain amount of time. So it all depends on each patient. It's hard to say a blanket term across all the board for prescribing if they're going to be off of it after 6 months of taking the medications.
And the president has said by January he would like discounted medicines on the government's new direct-to-consumer website, Trump RX. Your thoughts on maybe kind of putting them all in one central location?
That is a good option for patients. I think it's going to be a very good resource for patients to be directed to. I mean, more coverage for patients that didn't have the possibility before other than out of pocket. So definitely a lot more resources for them to be able to access these medications.
We have seen some shortages in the past when it came to these GLP-1s. There, especially in the beginning, it was like, oh, this is a great drug for people with diabetes or other comorbidities. And then all of a sudden people knew that it was a weight loss drug, and people who needed it for these health reasons weren't able to get it. Where do we stand now in terms of demand and supply?
So that is always of concern. Definitely don't want to have that experience again. But I think now we are at a point where the manufacturers are keeping up with the production and not having that period of time where patients weren't able to access the medications. But again, having these conversations ahead of time when you're speaking with your doctor, what the goal is, if there is going to be a break in medication, or if there are going to have to be shortages where you're not able to afford being able to get the medication. There are some options where they could have a compounded substitute, or if they're comfortable with being off it at a certain time until it becomes resumed again. But I don't foresee a larger scale like we did previously to occur again.
I'm just thinking that if it's more affordable for people, it may be an option for more people.
Yes, that is. I mean, the prices are going down, so that does make it a lot more enticing to be able to a lot more of a significant increase. But hopefully it doesn't get to the point where we're completely at a shortage again, and the manufacturers are being prepared and have taken steps to proactively cover our patients' needs.
Yeah, at this point, what are kind of if someone is going into the doctor, how are they able to get a prescription, I guess, for these drugs? Is it the diabetes? Is it things like that? Or can you go in and just say, well, I'd like to lose 20 pounds?
I mean, it has varying indications for usage. We could definitely treat our patients who are diabetics, who need better control for the A1C, who need to lose weight. So lots of benefits, but having those conversations and being very candid with your practitioner, what your goals are, what you're expecting to achieve with being on these medications. And like with any medication, you have to make sure that you're implicating and you're also having the lifestyle modifications along with it. There is no magic drug out there that's going to have a cure-all, but having the diet incorporated, the lifestyle modifications is very important.
I'm so glad you mentioned the no magic pill, because I feel like every few years we hear about something that kind of sounds like it will be. And then later we hear about the drawbacks or the risks. What are some of the risks for taking these drugs?
Like any drug out there, once it's used or misused, you could definitely have potential side effects. So, having your labs monitored, having your regular follow-ups with your physician, there are risks for increased, like any patients who have pancreatitis, other GI motility side effects, and having overall checkups with your doctor to make sure you're not going to increase, you're not having any of these side effects, but making sure you're reporting them as well too.
Are there some other things that, like, for instance, I saw an article just the other day about like Ozempic face. Are there some other things that we're starting to see now that more people have started to use these things and it's been out for a while?
Oh, yes. I mean, it is a medication that does help with weight loss. It's going to take a lot of the muscle out of our system, right? So you have to make sure you have a proper diet to incorporate that and build muscle, as well as having the modifications so it's not going to cause drawbacks or a side effect. Yes, it has potential to be a very great medication, but there are things that you need to do to upkeep and to make sure that you're staying healthy. So diet is very important. Having exercise regimen is very important as well too.
And as I said, this was a Novo Nordisk move that was made or announced today. Are we thinking that there's going to be more competition in the market as time goes on that maybe further brings the price down?
Definitely. I do foresee that for sure. And there are talks about an oral medication as well coming out soon. So that's in the works. So it's always evolving.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Sue. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your day. Hey, it's 2:16, everyone. We wanted to make sure that we got to Dr. Sue Ojigir in a timely manner because we promised her we would talk to her right around 2 o'clock. But that meeting of the FIFA World Cup Task Force is still going on. So let's go back and we'll listen to a little bit more of that.
Like with the Kennedy situation, with the Martin Luther King situation, not to put Jeffrey Epstein in the same category, but no matter what we give, it's never enough. You know, with Kennedy, we gave everything and it wasn't enough. With Martin Luther King, we gave everything and it's never enough. We've already given, I believe the number is 50,000 pages, 50,000 pages. And it's just a Russia hoax as it pertains to the Republicans. Now, I believe that many of the people that some of the people that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. But they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all. And we'll see what happens. What I just don't want Epstein to do is detract from the great success of the Republican Party, including the fact that the Democrats are totally blamed for the shutdown. You know, they cost our country hundreds of billions of dollars with that, at a lot of inconvenience. So I'm for I don't. They can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it. But don't talk about it too much because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us. It's really a Democrat problem. The Democrats were Epstein's friends, all of them, and it's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax, and I don't want to take it away from really the greatness of what the Republican Party has accomplished over the last period of time. Yes,
The shutdown is now over. And administration officials had said when the shutdown ends, they'll reevaluate the farmer relief. Now we have the deal with China. So is the administration still looking to dish out farmer relief now that the government is back?
Yeah, we want to. I'm always going to help our farmers.
So are you still looking to do
I would do that, yeah. If they need
that?
relief, we'll be there for them. We're going to always be for our farmers.
So what are you waiting
Yeah,
for?
please, in the back.
Mr. President, just speaking of the economic impacts of FIFA and possibly moving to another city, some games if you feel it's crime, is there like a timeline that you would do that? Because these cities, there's sponsorships, there's economic impacts for these communities.
Sure.
Is there?
Well, you know, the governors are going to have to behave. The mayors are going to have to behave. You know, in the case of California, you have a problem. You have high crime, and you have a place that just suffered great fires and everything else, and they didn't do a very good job. And if we didn't go in from the crime standpoint, you would have had a disaster. It was not going to be handled properly. It wasn't able to be. The head of the police said without, as I said, without the federal government, they could not have done it. So here's the story. I love Los Angeles. If they want help during this, I would love to send in National Guard or whoever's necessary to help them. I want it to be great. I'd love it to be in Los Angeles. I love the place. It's a natural for Los Angeles. If we think there's going to be crime, if we are obstructed by the governor, and maybe he won't obstruct, maybe it'll be great. But I'd love him for him to call and say, we'd like to have some extra help. Because if there's even a hint of a problem, we want to get in there before the problem occurs. We want to make it totally safe for Johnny and FIFA and all of the great people that are going to be there. And I think that's going to happen. I would be honored to help California if they're going to have a problem. And if they think they're going to have a problem, they should say so. We can be in there in 24 hours notice and do a great job.
But does that want to go to a year, by the end of the year, by the end of the first quarter?
Well, I think this, if they would tell us now, they're not going to have a problem. Because if we go in, they don't have a problem. Look at D.C. There's no crime in D.C. anymore. And D.C. was a mess. If they want us to go in, I'd like them to tell us right now. But if we go in, there will be no problem. There will be no crime.
What's the message then to local businesses who are considering sponsoring this?
Tell your governor to ask for federal help. We'd love to help them.
Mr. President, are you planning on also potentially launching strikes in Mexico or putting American troops or American personnel into Mexico to deal with it?
Would I launch strikes in Mexico to stop drugs? It's okay with me. Whatever we have to do to stop drugs. Mexico is... Look, I looked at Mexico City over the weekend. There's some big problems over there. If we had to, would we do there what we've done to the waterways? There's almost no drugs coming in through our waterways anymore. Isn't it down like 85%?
It is, sir. Absolutely.
I don't know who the 15% would be.
Yep.
It wouldn't be you.
No, that's for sure.
No, I think it's been...
Tons and tons of
You would
drugs.
say that's a big signal.
Absolutely.
We have almost no drugs coming into our country by the sea, by, the waterways. And you know why, okay? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Would I do that on the land corridors? I would look, every boat we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives. Not to mention the destruction of families. These families are decimated forever. The mother, the father, the children, they never recover really from it. When you lose somebody like the way they live, if you lose them, but the way they die is horrible.
Is it something?
So when we knock out a boat and we save 25,000 lives, that's great. Now, do I feel the same way about the corridors that they use? We know every one of them. We have every one of those corridors under major surveillance. We have nobody coming in through our southern border. But we know exactly how they get their things here, how they get the drugs here, fentanyl, cocaine. Colombia has cocaine factories where they make cocaine. Would I knock out those factories? I would be proud to do it personally. I didn't say I'm doing it, but I would be proud to do it because we're going to save millions of lives by doing it.
Would you only do it with Mexico's permission, though?
I wouldn't answer that question. I've been speaking to Mexico. They know how I stand. We're losing hundreds of thousands of people to drugs. So now we've stopped the waterways, but we know every route. We know every route. We know the addresses of every drug lord. We know their address. We know their front door. We know everything about every one of them. They're killing our people. That's like a war. Would I do it? I'd be proud to. I'd probably go into Congress and say, hey, and you know what? The Democrats and the Republicans would both agree, unless they're crazy. And they are a little crazy on the Democrat side. But we have lost hundreds of thousands of people a year, death. And that's not talking about family destruction, that's talking about death. And much of it comes through Mexico. So let me just put it this way. I am not happy with Mexico, okay? Thank you very much,
Thank you,
everybody.
Press. Thank you, Press.
Thank you.
Thank you, Press.
Okay, we wanted to listen into a bit of the question and answer portion, again, of that meeting. Now, the meeting was held for the FIFA World Cup 2026 Task Force. That task force is made up of several people who are their goal is to make sure it's a smooth transition, to make sure that everyone is safe. And of course, the big announcement that came from this meeting today was the visas that they are now making available for international fans who want to come here to watch the game. So if they get a ticket, they can have an expedited process to get their visa that may take in off years. It would maybe take half a year, but what they're trying to make sure is that people are able to get their visas within about 6 to 8 weeks. In that question and answer portion, as is expected, it goes for many different topics. So the president was asked about the shutdown, he was asked about the economy, he was asked about crime, he was talked about sending in the National Guard to different areas if needed, especially when he talked about Los Angeles and speaking of the FIFA World Cup and what may be a solution for them. He would like for Governor Gavin Newsom to give him a call and ask for the National Guard, because the governor should request the National Guard for them to be deployed into your state. Of course, that is a bit of what's been a legal matter here in the state of Illinois, is that the governor never made a request. The National Guard was brought here, but a judge stopped them from actually being federalized to be deployed here in this area as a result of the immigration efforts that were happening throughout Chicagoland. So he also talked about tension with Mexico and Venezuela over the strikes to drug boats and to drugs coming across into America. He said when it comes to drug boats, that those drug boats are down 85%. And then on land, he talked about knowing exactly where cartels and other drug lords are, and the fact that they know their addresses, wanted to make sure that drugs aren't coming into the United States. And of course, they talked about the Epstein files. So a lot has transpired where it comes to the Epstein files. Tomorrow, there is expected to be a House vote on the Epstein files. It's supposed to be compelling a bill that would release all of the Justice Department's files related to the ex-sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. President Trump has made kind of an about face on this for a while, not wanting any movement there, but just over the weekend, he said, hey, release it, release whatever you want to. He said, there is never enough. Speaking of making more Epstein files available, he's saying that it doesn't matter if I give 10,000 more pages, that it will never be enough. He said that it was a Russia hoax, but he admits that there are people who are being looked at for very serious crimes when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and the company that he kept. And he also said that he doesn't want Epstein to be a detraction from the success that his administration has had. Primarily, he was talking about the government shutdown, which he blames on Democrats. He called it a Democrat problem. So again, there is expected to be a House vote tomorrow. It will be a major story for tomorrow, whether the House actually takes up a vote. GOP leaders over the weekend also, after the president made his stance clear that he was okay with these files being released, they signaled today, Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, signaled today that he would support a bill on releasing the files. But he also asked for some changes in the provisions to the Senate version of that bill. So we're still waiting to find out whether there is going to be a vote, but it is expected to happen tomorrow. And as soon as we know more information on that, we will be passing it along. So we covered a lot of different things in that question and answer portion, and we wanted to be able to hear that all together live. It's 2:27 right now. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. 2:31 right now, and the city just settled a lawsuit with DoorDash over what they deemed were deceptive business practices, and they're going to have to provide some restitution now. DoorDash for delivery drivers, restaurants, and consumers after this investigation that arose from the city wanting to look into practices of third-party meal delivery companies that gained prominence during COVID-19. So I want to bring in Ben Swetland, our legal analyst for today. I appreciate your time and help in trying to make sense of all of this.
Happy to join you.
Were you able to read over the settlement? Let me ask you this.
I'm somewhat familiar with it. The city has only really released sort of cursory information. We don't know all the details yet, just what they've always alleged going back to 2021 and what the amounts of compensation are going to be now.
Yeah, so it looks like an $18 million settlement. I mentioned that there are multiple groups who stand to receive something from this. How do you think that breaks down? I mean, I see here, $3.25 million to restaurants, but what do you think in terms of consumers? I mean, we live in the city where almost everyone uses DoorDash at some point. How does that work out for consumers?
For sure. So beginning at the end of January, a pot of $4 million is going to be made available to users of the DoorDash and also the Caviar app, which is owned by DoorDash. We don't know exactly how much is going to be available for each individual user. It's going to be credits. Nobody's going to get a paycheck or anything in the mail, but it'll be $4 million divided by however many eligible users there are.
So according to the city's complaint, DoorDash violated the Chicago Municipal Code by listing restaurants on its platform without their consent. I mean, how often do you think that happens, that from a business standpoint, you're being put out there, and is it the businesses that maybe say, hey, wait a minute, we're not looking too good here. We were put on something without our consent and maybe we can't keep up with the pace? Or is it just, hey, no, we're looking through the code and there's a bunch of restaurants on here that don't meet code. We're not going to fine them, we're fining you.
Yeah, so restaurant owners have been incensed by this practice for years, which has been practiced by not just DoorDash, but also Uber Eats and really any delivery app in the space. They're all competing for market share and trying to get every restaurant on their platform, even if the restaurant isn't actually on their platform. They were going so far, at least DoorDash in their case, where if a restaurant was not registered with DoorDash, they would still allow you to order from DoorDash, and the DoorDash driver would take his hat off or his jacket off if it had a DoorDash logo on it, and would go to the restaurant and essentially pretend to be you.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope that he wasn't able to pretend to be, never mind. Okay. I hope that didn't work. But so the city also is alleging that DoorDash didn't initially present upfront the full cost of its service to consumers, imposed a misleading name, Chicago fee, that was not a city mandated charge.
Yeah, so what would happen is you go on the app and you look at a different restaurant and they say it's a $3.99 delivery fee or it's a 99-cent delivery fee. You figure that's the delivery fee. Well, no. Once everybody has agreed on the restaurant and put in whatever they want to order, and you're finally at the end of the transaction and it's about time to just push the last button, they would tell you, well, here are all your fees and taxes. And what they didn't tell you is there was a service fee, which was a percentage of your overall order, and this Chicago fee, which they made it look like it was like a tax that the city was making you pay. It's not true. It was just a $1.50 fee that anybody who ordered DoorDash in the city of Chicago had to pay. And that's really the main allegation in the lawsuit, that the city, these companies just were not honest and upfront about what you were going to have to pay.
Yeah, and even that the menu prices on the platform were higher than the prices available directly from the restaurants. So now that we've had this settlement with the city, do you see restaurants coming after DoorDash?
So most of the delivery companies that can be sued over this have been sued over this. The city has already settled a lawsuit, I think it was back in 2023, with Uber Eats, which also owns Postmates. Then this is DoorDash and Caviar. There is litigation pending against Grubhub as well. And Grubhub is also subject to a recent settlement with the Federal Trade Commission over some of these same practices. So we're kind of running out of companies to sue. Everybody who's done this stuff has had to reach some kind of agreement with some government official or entity, and there's really nobody left.
Yeah, but if it's, I mean, does it have to be class action? If I have a restaurant and my restaurant was one of these that you know, gave consumers misleading information, does it have to be class action, or can I now sue you for misleading information about my restaurant online?
Sure. So that's a complicated question. If you were to bring your own lawsuit, these companies would probably say, hey, look, we already settled this lawsuit with the city of Chicago. Some money was made available to you, so you should have been a part of that process. That would get worked out among the lawyers. Certainly any restaurant that is looking to get compensation for what has happened should look very hard at participating in this settlement and not ignore it.
Well, is the problem fixed now?
There's what we lawyers call an injunction. That's part of this settlement, where basically Grubhub will promise not to do this, and that's similar relief that's come out of other settlements against other providers. You know, restaurants now have known about this for years and been complaining about it for years, and it really is now accepted as, let's say, an unacceptable practice. So yeah, I think it's probably the end of this, although you will see sometimes one-off scammers, especially from people outside of the country, but it's not the major delivery providers, not anymore.
Mm-hmm. Are people in the city and elsewhere now looking at getting some free meals?
Yeah, so that $4 million, at least for City of Chicago users of DoorDash and Caviar, is going to be what you can apply to orders, delivery costs, and that kind of thing. Restaurants as well are going to either get just a pure cash payout if they were never part and have never been part of the DoorDash network. If they are, then they're going to also get credits that they can apply to costs they would otherwise have to pay. And then drivers, lastly, are going to get $500,000 of unpaid money as well.
Yeah. How far does $500,000 go to all of the drivers out there? And for that matter, the consumer? Are we looking at like $4 credits?
That's a really good question. I wish I could answer that right now and tell you what's each individual going to get. We don't know yet because the city of Chicago hasn't told us that yet. Neither is DoorDash. So I always wish, hey, I'm a plaintiff's lawyer. I wish we could, get $1 billion or all their profits for the year or what have you. Unfortunately, that's just not how it works. And when it comes to the actual dollar amounts in this case, that was the agreement between the city of Chicago and the defendants.
Yeah, they can hold on to it and use it for our property taxes. No, I'm playing. So I see here DoorDash will make these credits automatically available to eligible Chicago users beginning January 28th, 2026. What do you think leaves room for these types of things to happen? And what do you think it says about how we go forward with different things that pop up that make our life easier, but then maybe because they make it so easy, we're not paying as much attention to some of the things that may go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big philosophical question about the value of technology and society and those kinds of things. And I think we'll be having conversations about that for a long time. The one thing that sticks out to me is I just get the impression that the people who are old enough to be in charge of, let's say, the city of Chicago's law department or the Federal Trade Commission, are old enough and have been around the internet long enough to be savvy enough to identify these deceptive practices and actually speak up and do something about them. And I think that that's something that we'll continue to see in the future as regulators and law enforcement officials just get smarter about what some of these companies are doing.
Yeah, and I remember, there was a whole issue with ghost kitchens, on some of these sites. Like the restaurant didn't even exist. So how do we, if someone's coming forward and saying, I want to be a part of litigation, how are they even verifying that all of the restaurants are actual restaurants?
Well, in terms of this settlement, they'll be working off of the data that DoorDash has. I mean, that's the thing. DoorDash is very good at identifying who real restaurants are and doing everything they could to scrape their data off the internet so that they could load it into their own website and then essentially, take orders on behalf of the restaurant without the restaurant even knowing it. So if there's one thing that these tech companies are really good at, it's scraping up a whole bunch of data, and that's going to be the data that the city of Chicago is going to be working off of as it rolls out this settlement.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just ask you this maybe on a final note. Obviously, you're not linked to this case, and you did bring up the fact that, DoorDash is in this settlement, but Uber Eats or some other companies were also listed in other settlements, similar settlements. Does this remind you of something else that we have seen that legally, that the local governments have had to come up against?
Well, sure, specifically those particular settlements, but you maybe heard about the Amazon settlement, which was another sort of hidden fee settlement where the information, if you went all the way down the rabbit hole and clicked 17 links, you could figure out what's going on. But it wasn't easy just for a normal person. So we're seeing that in all kinds of phone app, any kind of online retail space. We're going to continue to see these kinds of settlements, less and less against the major players, but I think for a long time we'll be seeing them against smaller companies that try and cut corners, try and play a little bit of a trick, and wind up doing something to ultimately cheat consumers.
Is there something that we as consumers need to be doing differently?
Boy, oh boy, that's the tough one. Honestly, the problem with these kinds of lawsuits is there's really not a whole lot you can do. If you want to spend your whole evening reading the fine print on the DoorDash terms and conditions, go right ahead. But, it's very difficult to live that kind of life and constantly be reading the fine print. That's why it's important that we have these law enforcement officials who can come forward and get justice fundamentally on behalf of everybody, at least after the fact.
Yeah, spending the night looking through all the fine print kind of takes away the convenience of what you were looking for anyway. Thank you so much, Attorney Swetland. We appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. It's just about 2:45, everyone. Let's take a quick break. Welcome back, everyone. 247, and today West Aurora District 129, in partnership with Highland Electric Fleets, is unveiling 27 new all-electric school buses, marking the largest electric school bus fleet in the Chicagoland area. It is a monumental task that they have undertaken, and Dr. Angie Smith, Associate Superintendent of Operations, is joining me now to talk a little bit more about it. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you. Thank you. We're super excited and happy to celebrate the official grand opening today.
Tell me how long this has been in the process of coming to fruition.
Wow. So we actually have had these conversations for a few years, but the math didn't quite line up until last fall when there were some incentives available from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. And so our board approved this last fall, and we finally had buses on the road beginning of October.
Wow. So why 27? Why not 30? I mean, why not 25?
Great question, because that's all we could get. There were limits on what you could apply for in the grant. The first round that we applied, the limit was 2. The second was 25. So we took everything that we could get. We also felt like that's about a third of our fleet, and we kind of felt like that was a reasonable place to start. But quite frankly, if it'd been a little bit more, we'd gone a little higher, but that's as much as we could get as an individual district.
Mm-hmm. Is the goal then to overhaul the entire fleet at some point in time, but this is the starting point?
Sure. So we're not sure yet. Part of this will be a pilot. I think, EV technology is improving, but right now we are somewhat limited to our routes that are shorter. And when I say shorter, we're looking at routes that are 60 to 70 miles a day between our morning pickups and our afternoon drop-offs. There's also always going to be things like long distance field trips, especially in a high school where we'd have to worry about charging on the back end. So until some of that infrastructure is available, state and nationwide, you're going to have some barriers. But the biggest barrier would really be cost. Electric buses are about twice as much as a gas bus. With the incentives, we were actually able to purchase them at about half the cost of our gas buses. But a lot of those incentives that were part of the federal government have actually stopped for the time being.
So I see here that you all weighed student safety, air quality, and operational efficiency when you were district's commitment to sustainability across its campuses. Can you hear me now, Dr. Smith?
I can now. I guess I cut out part there. So we left off on safety, which they're very similar to the other buses, but we wanted to make sure that they were reliable. From a sustainability standpoint, this is just the next step for us. We've actually have solar on many of our roofs. We have geothermal. We have electric driver's ed cars. So this was just the next piece there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when it comes to maintenance of these buses, how does that look different from a diesel bus?
Sure. Some things are similar, tires are tires, but where it's different is you don't really have an engine with as many parts to need repair as you do when you have, a battery. So it required some, training for our staff. They're learning every day a little bit more about them. But really a lot of the nuts and bolts of what they do are very similar. The big difference is you don't have a gas combustion engine, which means you have less things that can fail. So that's really the biggest difference.
Did your grant include charging stations, or what does the charging infrastructure look like?
Sure. So yes, some of the grants were about both charging and the vehicles themselves. So in addition to the money we received from the Environmental Protection Agency, we received $930,000 from ComEd. That went towards the charging stations as well as the buses. We also are going to receive tax credits, which go towards the buses and the charging stations as well. So we've basically had to add new electric service because this is a lot more power than we were ever using before. Mm-hmm. And we put in 14 charging stations, each with basically, 2 positions for a bus, so we could handle up to 28.
Yeah, and overall, when it comes to operating expenses, I'm sure you all have done your spreadsheets and all of those things. What's about like the difference dollars wise that you're expecting?
Sure. So the biggest difference on the initial purchasing was that instead of spending about $175,000 for a gas bus, we net spent about $90,000 for an electric bus. And then, on an annual basis, we're going to have a reduction in, obviously we won't be buying gas at the same level we were before. We will be purchasing electricity, but what we're going to look to do there is next summer we will be adding a solar array to the top of our buses, which will, if you've been out in like California, Arizona, and you've seen those parking areas where they kind of have a roof over the top as you're parked, that's what we'll be adding. That'll even bring our costs down further. But right now, we look at typically when you're running a gas bus, our estimated fuel cost is about 58 cents per mile. On an electric bus, even before we put the solar in, you drop that to 18 cents per mile. So we anticipate, just in operating savings, about $120,000 a year that we can save taxpayers.
Wow. Now, how old was your old bus fleet?
Sure. So we actually were on a program where we were leasing our buses every 2 years. So our buses weren't super old. We'd kind of found the sweet spot in terms of maintenance and efficiency. So kind of complicated, but there's a transportation claim that you do every year with the state of Illinois. And so we had been leasing our buses and trading them in every 2 years. And now we will likely own these for at least probably 10, potentially longer, depending on how long the batteries last.
Which perfectly leads into my next question. So obviously we have iffy weather, let's just say that. When it comes to fall to winter and sometimes on into spring during here in Chicagoland. So how do you all plan for that when it comes to battery life and maintenance? I mean, I remember even maybe a few years ago, there was a study about people who had electric vehicles in the area and the fact that, obviously we don't have a lot of sunshine in the winter months and the effects that had for people who had electric vehicles.
Sure. So the sun would be more on the solar side, but let's just talk about the temperature for a minute. So these buses have a range of probably around 110 miles for a complete charge. What we did is we made sure we didn't put them on any routes that were any longer than about 65.
Okay.
So that way, if we do get one of those Arctic days where it's 40 below and we have the efficiency of the battery impacted, we should be fine. We also have those miles, that's for a full day. But as most people know with school buses, we're busy in the morning, we're busy in the afternoon. If they need to charge in the middle, then we could charge them and we should be fine.
Yeah, I was reading a Harvard study that said that replacing diesel school buses with electric school buses may yield up to $247,600 in climate and health benefits per individual bus. How do you feel about changing over to this next wave of clean energy as a school district?
Sure. So as a school district, we've done this with a lot of things. We've got 9 buildings that have solar. We have 11 buildings that are geothermal. And while those are all great from a climate standpoint, I will tell you as the CFO of the district, it doesn't matter if the math doesn't work. But the math has worked on these things because there have been incentives in place to bring that cost down. With some of those things expiring, it's going to make it harder for other districts to replicate what we've done because they won't be able to get that EPA money, for example. Currently, that program is not operating. It's been stopped. But from our standpoint, we're not only benefiting the environment, we're benefiting our taxpayers. We're modeling for students what it is to be responsible to the climate. But as I shared with our board, the first time we had this conversation about 4 years ago, those were all great things, but the math didn't work because there were no incentives. The incentives made it such that now we can check all those boxes, all those good things happen, and most importantly, the math works.
Yeah, similar to people weighing solar panels for the home and the credits that are expiring for those at the end of the year.
100%.
Yeah, so there are about 500,000 or more school buses in use, these electric school buses in the U.S. How many do you think, have you all done that research about here in the state of Illinois, how many school districts actually use these electric buses?
Sure. There are several that have a few. Prior to the EPA program, there was actually a Volkswagen settlement that enabled some districts to get a few buses here or there with significant rebates. But I'll be honest, we jumped in, to the deep end compared to some districts. At the time, we did that because that's as many as we could apply for. And I jokingly said to the board at the time when somebody said, should we do fewer? I said, well, you never know when the money's going to go away. Unfortunately, that is exactly what happened. But we had checked with some of our neighbors, Naperville, Huntley, or some other districts around who had a few and talked about what they had seen. We also spent a lot of time with the manufacturer. We initially were looking at Lion buses, but unfortunately, as many people might be aware, Lion ended up going bankrupt. So we shifted and moved to Bluebird buses. Bluebird is who designs our gas buses. We're not diesel, we're actually gas. So we'd already made that first step towards cleaner buses. But we felt confident that based on everything that we heard, and then we have a very strong partner with Highland who has done implementations before. So we're not going alone on this. We're able to partner with them and say, have you seen this before? How did this work? And so far, so good. We've had a couple chilly days, not what we here in Chicago would call cold
Right.
yet, but we're preparing for those. And, we really feel like it's going to make a big difference, like I said, for both an efficiency standpoint, from a resource standpoint. It's a win-win.
Dr. Angie Smith, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you.
And I'd really love to circle back with you in about a year and kind of get your assessment on how things went in that first year.
Absolutely. I will tell you one small thing that's kind of funny before we go. We had to warn our parents that if you used to sit and wait to hear the bus coming around the corner before you went to the bus stop, can't do that anymore. These are so quiet that we've had kids miss the bus because they didn't hear it.
Yeah. You could wait and then you run out of your house when you heard it on the way. That is true.
Yep. Can't do that anymore. Can't do that with EVs.
Okay, to be early is to be on time now.
Exactly. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. 3:02 right now. We have plenty to get to in this last hour of Chicago Live today. We're going to talk about the Bears because it is Victory Monday, so we're bringing in Tina Nguyen to talk more about what we can expect and to just, take in the glow of a Redemption Monday as well. We're going to talk about women's baseball, and yes, I say women's baseball, not softball. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation about a new pro league downstate. And speaking of being downstate, we have Oliviana Calmez, who is here to talk about soybean farmers and the tariffs that they've been hit with and how they're dealing with those right now. Thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, Anita. Yeah, this has been a confusing situation for soybean farmers, and Illinois being the largest producer of soybeans in the United States. I wanted to talk to somebody here about this confusion about whether China is going to buy more soybeans. At first, we were thinking China would not buy any, which China makes up about 50% of the soybean exports that the U.S. does. Again, Illinois being one of the largest producers in the country. Now, a couple weeks ago, the Trump administration met with Xi Jinping in South Korea, and out of that, U.S. officials saying that they will buy some soybeans, but the ones I spoke with here say that hasn't quite happened yet, so they're still having to make some tough decisions in the next couple of months about whether they're going to prepay, whether they're going to invest in new equipment, because a lot of this is up in the air, Anita.
Yeah. What have they said in terms of their growing season and their harvesting season? What that's looked like this year?
This year, they have already wrapped up harvesting soybean, and they said that they are really worried because they expect to get a lot less for the soybeans that they have. A lot of folks are storing that, hoping that that value will go up. But in the meantime, they're having to cut a lot of costs as input costs are also rising. Talking about this tariff situation, there's other tariffs that play a role in this. You may have, heard about this potash fertilizer, Canada, U.S. trade war as well, and how much that has gone up. So you got to think about a lot of these input costs as well as they decide what exactly to move into harvesting and choosing what crops. The one I spoke with, that farmer I spoke with, said that he thankfully has other things he farms as well. He has cattle, he has popcorn, and others tell me they have wheat and alfalfa. So they have some things to fall back on, but not every farmer in this area does.
Yeah, and you're in Edwardsville. Tell me a little bit about that area since you've been out there, what the sentiment is like. Are people angry about it? Are they sad about it? Or are they just concerned?
I would say in this downstate area in Illinois, farmers tell me that they are definitely concerned, but I will tell you, every time I talk to farmers, they tell me they have weathered a lot of different seasons of being unsure of what's next. That is kind of the precipice of being a farmer, is not knowing what the weather will bring, not knowing what the markets will bring. So they're optimistic. They're very glad that there's some promise of China's purchasing of soybeans, but for right now, they're just waiting for that to actually hit and those numbers and confirmation to be sent. Now, that promise was for until the new year, so there's still some time so we can hear back from whether these purchases are being made. But the USDA put out a report on Friday and no large purchases had been made yet, so we're just waiting and seeing.
Have any of those that you spoke with tried contacting the governor or any local lawmakers?
I think that they are still crossing their fingers that things will happen quickly because this had just been announced a couple weeks ago. So I think they're hoping and they are putting trust, a lot of them still in the administration, how this will end up trickling down and helping out farmers in the long run. But for now, like I said, they're kind of, crossing their fingers, hoping to see some change in the next few weeks.
Yeah, well, obviously, we're hoping that things work out for them. We all depend on them in one way or another, our farmers throughout America. So thank you so much. Appreciate it, Oliviana.
Of course.
All right, take care. It's 3:06 right now. Let's take another quick break. 3:10 right now. Thanks for staying with us. And we have political reporter Paris Schutz, who's here now, just back from City Hall. And you've got a little bit of breaking news.
Well, it looks like that corporate head tax that folks are concerned about, it was dealt a major blow. The City Council Finance Committee held a vote on it today, and they rejected it by a vote of 25 to 10. So
wow.
That's kind of a blowout here. And so the Finance Committee is kind of like the harbinger of where council is on this. So if it can't pass the committee, it's not going to pass the full City Council, and the mayor has a lot of work to do. But they were clear in their message. We are not for this. We listen to the business community. We fear that that's going to drive them away. And so they voted it down. So it's back to work.
And driving more businesses down is one of the biggest issues that keeps coming back up. And when we were talking about property taxes earlier today with Maria Pappas, and she was talking, well, if you have all of these empty storefronts,
right,
you know, how the consumer or, you know, the home buyer then ends up picking up that burden.
Yeah, and that the alderman in opposition to the head tax tried to connect those two things. So what the Pappas study showed is that because there's vacancy in the loop, these property values are going down. And this is the loop is the piggy bank for all of the city. This is where all the revenue comes in that helps programs that support the West and the South Side. So what these alders are saying is if you pass a head tax, you're encouraging employers to locate elsewhere, not in Chicago, which will drive those values down even further in the loop, which will hurt the entire city. That's the point they tried to make.
So the corporate head tax, which even the governor was not on board for, gets a no. Okay,
right, that's a no.
But there are several more taxes that are still in the works.
And here's the thing: they all today's vote was on. It was on the revenue package, so it was all the taxes and fees. They all got the no. So I don't know if the viewers here, the streamers, want me to list every single one. We counted more than 22.
We've got time.
Okay. All the proposed hikes here: wheel tax, personal property lease tax, regulated and limited business license, food business license, commercial boat passenger license, recycling facility operator fine, annual food establishment inspection fee, public health violation inspection fee, boat mooring tax. You know, all you boat owners out there. Rideshare congestion fee expansion, storage and towing fee, livery vehicle license tax, commercial driveway permit fee, canopy construction scaffolding permit fee, work vehicles obstructing the public way fee, vacant building / property registration fee, employee head tax, which we mentioned, social media amusement tax, DOB trade license fees, online sports wagering. Woo!
Yeah.
Those are all the taxes and fees that the mayor proposed to hike.
And you have a post that's
I just
done
read it,
numbers now. What is the reaction you're getting on that post?
A lot of big eyes. People are just like, wow, that's a lot. And what these alders here today in opposition are saying is like, the voters are sending a message. They want us to cut. And what they bring up is that the mayor himself contracted an audit firm, Ernst & Young, EY, to come in and come up with ways to really make this budget more efficient.
And that was taxpayer money, too.
Yeah, it was taxpayer money. And they came up with about $1 billion potentially. Now, that wouldn't all be realized in 1 year. And these alders are saying, well, you've got this report that you paid for, and they're saying, hey, you could save a lot more money. Why aren't you doing it?
So those are those who are in opposition. Is anyone saying we support this?
Yes. I mean, the mayor had a press conference, and if you tune in at 4 and 5 and later tonight on the Chicago Report, we'll show that. He had a press conference with the alders who are in support of this with the mayor, and their point is the property taxes are going up, so would you rather we hike property taxes on the city level in addition to all the hikes that you're seeing, or do we do these other taxes? So all these other taxes I listed are kind of in lieu of doing property taxes. But these alders are saying it's a false choice. They're like, well, we could just cut. We could cut and then worry about maybe some of the revenue that we have to fill there. What the mayor is saying, but if we cut, then it's going to hurt the public safety progress we've made.
Well, I was going to ask, what would the cuts be to? And for those who are opposed to it, who say cut, what are some of maybe the main places where they would make cuts?
Police, and that's where the mayor said, you know, because that's the big part of the budget. That's the big chunk of the budget. And he says, do you really want to threaten the gains we've made on public safety? Do you want to cut police? Do you want to cut violence intervention workers? Do you want to cut programs that help people avoid violence, like substance abuse counseling and mental health programs? And that's the choice he is presenting. Is like, we either raise these pieces of revenue on businesses, or we cut these crucial things. So, but aldermen like Anthony Beale and the ones that voted this down said, don't scare us like that.
Yeah.
We can find other ways to make government more efficient and not have to lay off police.
Are there some council members who are opposed, who aren't typically opposed to the mayor?
Yes, and you know, these big legislative bodies are a study in groupthink, you know, the mob mentality. So once they see votes going a certain way, some of the other ones jump, okay, well, I'm jumping off the Titanic and I'm going to vote. So yes, there were some people allied with the mayor that voted this down that said, well, wait a second, like, you know, if we tax, I mean, a lot of these taxes I listed, they're not just for rich people.
Yeah.
You know, one of these, the personally property lease tax, that's on any small business that leases property.
Which is a lot of small businesses.
Which is a lot of small business, or software, computer software, which every small business does. They would have to pay more tax on that. That's hitting working people, not just the billionaires.
And definitely could put them out of business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the argument.
So what is the process from here?
Well, the mayor he said, let's take a pause. Let's take a 2-week pause. Let's come back to this in December. So initially, he really wanted to jam this vote this week. But then what happened today was all of a sudden we started to see that he doesn't have anywhere near the votes. So now they want to delay. And the delay buys them time to lobby people.
I was about to say, do you think he knew going into today? Because it did seem like at least the allegations were made that there were a lot of conversations happening, which is typical,
always
happening ahead of today. So do you think he knew going into today, I don't have the votes there?
Yeah. I think that they had thought they would have the votes, and they worked over the weekend and they revised the head tax. First, it was 100. If you have 100 employees, then it went to 200, and then like at the last minute today, went back down to 100. And it was fascinating at City Council. You saw the mayor's team take alders into this back room and start talking to them and trying to influence them. And at the end of the day, as the meeting went on, it was going to be clear to everybody that the mayor did not have the votes. So I think he thought going into today he would. And the longer that this dragged on, then that would be more time for people to change their mind.
Yeah.
But what happened was they didn't need that time. They already don't support this in large numbers. So that's 25 alders on this finance committee. That's half of the aldermen on City Council voting no. So the mayor has a lot of work to do. And he is not giving up on that head tax, but these aldermen are pretty dug in saying, no, we're not going to support this.
Yeah. Okay, so could he, all right, let's say if the head tax is the issue, all right, throw the head tax away, but the rest of that gets through?
Well, I mean, and I asked these alders who were opposed to this, I said, well, if you see more cuts and efficiencies in the budget, would you support some of these taxes? And they didn't really answer that. Because I think everybody knows when you have a $1.15 billion deficit, there's no one way you can solve that. So everything has to be a part of it. So I would think that some of these taxes that we listed are going to get in there. It's either that or property taxes. And given the fact that everybody's getting their bill and opening it up and being like, oh my God, especially if you're on the south and west side, there won't be any appetite to raise property taxes in the city either.
They keep going back to TIF funds.
Right.
As a big part of it as well.
And this happens every year with these deficits, is that the mayor decides, well, we'll declare a surplus in the TIF accounts. And that's kind of like a bailout. It's like a get out of jail free. They're declaring like $500 million. And what that means is that, it's the money in these tax increment financing accounts. I don't know if you want me to go into that whole, what that is, but.
Well, I think people need to know.
Sure,
because I think people don't understand it.
We hear the word TIF and we don't. Yeah. So, I mean, the TIF is a tool. It's an economic development tool. And basically, it freezes the level of property taxes that go to, all the bodies that need the property. And every incremental increase, as your value goes up, neighborhoods gentrify or whatever, there's an increase in that value. That increase goes into this separate account called the TIF account. And the mayor historically has used that account at their discretion to bail out the budget, like we said, to give to schools. Initially, TIF was supposed to be for developers. I mean, the idea of it is you're freezing that increment it's not going to go to schools. It's not going to go here, there, or the other place. But what it will do is you give some subsidies to developers so that it's like a down payment. So they're adding to the property tax rolls. That's like the initial idea of it. And there's a lot of confusion over, like, people have long argued, well, you're depriving schools of money when you do TIF. I don't think that's accurate, because I think the schools and the governments, they all have a pot of money that they get. And it's the levy, the property tax levy. That is set at a certain amount. And so when there's a TIF, it just means that taxpayers have to make up for that money.
Yeah.
But the schools and all those taxing bodies are going to get their money.
But it ends up being the catch-22 of all of these neighborhoods, again, south and west sides, where you're seeing the TIF dollars. But okay, well, those developers are trying to go in and revitalize the neighborhood.
Yeah, and development is sorely needed. We know that. We know that we have prices that are inflated in homes. We know that we don't have construction happening and home building at the rate that we need to. And you know, the Tribune did an editorial and basically said, well, developers, you know, investors are scared of the climate here, and so they're not loaning money out to developers to do these projects in the ways that they're doing in other cities, because they're scared of the climate. And that's part of this vote today from alders. These alders are hearing that. They're like, you know what? We hear businesses, we hear developers. We need to grow. The city needs to grow its tax base, and if it doesn't, you'll never solve these budgets.
Are they bringing up some ways that they feel we could grow our tax base?
Yeah, I mean, basically they're saying making this a friendly climate for business. So if you have certainty here where businesses know they're not going to get taxed every which way, they argue that more investment will happen, more businesses will open here, more developers will build condos and apartments and hotels, and that expands the tax base. That gives more money to the tax rolls. And so this is, you know, the kind of the centrist position here is like, growth is the surest way to solve all these financial problems the city has. And if you put all these onerous taxes on business, then it stagnates the growth.
There is a new commercial that's been airing that talks about the different taxes and says, what's next, air? You know, I do think people get very concerned when they hear all of those different taxes.
Sure.
They wonder, okay, where is all this money going? My money, where is all my money going? And why do they keep adding new taxes if they're not seeing it? I mean, we have a business, we're looking right down toward Millennium Park here, and there's a business that just went out of business, you know, like
you see a lot of vacancy,
today,
and we're in the loop. So that's what they're saying is like the vacancy has gone up in the loop, which means the property values have gone down, which means that you know, government is collecting less taxes but it has to be made up. You know, it's a zero-sum game. You know, there is one levy and that money has to come in. And so if it's not going to come in from the buildings downtown, it's going to come homeowners, south and west side.
Anything else that came out of the meeting today?
You know, it was just so chaotic and fast moving that I'm still trying to process all of it. But you know, the mayor's also proposed billions of dollars in borrowing to help pay for some of this stuff over the next few years.
Which isn't new.
Which is not new. So there's that debate in addition to the budget. And, you know, all of this, again, as the treasurer, who I know you had on, and we're going to have on again tonight on the Chicago Report, although you made news today where she's saying she's going to run for mayor.
She says she's in and she's not getting out.
Well, that'll be her platform then. Because she did this study basically showing, you know, how the property tax burden now is really shifting onto the homeowner. And that's a big problem.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It is a big
I mean,
deal.
the homeowners, like I said, if you look at downtown in the Loop as kind of the piggy bank, you know, where like this is where all the money is generated. These, you know, the Sears to the Willis Tower is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and so that's a lot of tax money, as opposed to a bungalow on the south side. So if you, but that bungalow owner, you know, if you hike their property taxes double, like that's tough on them.
Well, you know, we were speaking with the founder of an organization in North Lawndale on Friday, and he said some of the folks that he deals with in North Lawndale saw 100% increases.
Yeah, and again, that's from the assessor's office. They assess all the values and they set the rates, and there's some anger now at the assessor's office. But again, part of that is the loss of business,
Right.
the loss of business investment.
It's all
That goes down, then homeowner payments go up to make up for it. And so there's a growing consensus that there needs to be policies that encourage investment, entrepreneurship, someone that vacant store,
Right.
someone to put something in there, a restaurant or something.
And there's, I guess the other aspect of it is, okay, is there a sense of trying to do things with haste by one group versus, hey, this haste is going to cost us in the long run, but maybe those who are in support of the quick way say, no, we have to do something right now.
Haste makes waste, I guess. But the mayor wanted this done hastily. And he said, well, we've been looking at this since April. I mean, it's not as if this is new, and he's right. And he's saying, well, give me your ideas. You can't just be no. Then give me your ideas.
And that's fair.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, they need to come up with, like Alderman Wagasback said, well, there's $30 to $60 million in savings from this. I don't remember exactly what it was. When you're talking about a $1.15 billion, that's pennies.
Right.
They got to come up with more than that.
Right.
They got to come up with something that's going to, and everybody's afraid to raise property taxes. So, like I don't mean to fearmonger reading all those taxes. Objectively, they're going to have to raise some revenue somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it goes back into, again, what Maria Pappas said in terms of the fact that, you list them off there on X and, get
I got a lot
eyeballs,
of 150,000 or something like that.
Versus are people actually opening their bill and reading through every aspect of it?
Well, Treasurer Pappas is really, I commend that office for really trying to educate property taxpayers on what the money goes toward. And so if you open your bill, you see all the line items, and certain amount is going to CPS and a certain amount is going to community colleges, to the library, to the city, and kind of trying to, I know she has a team there that just like analyzes this data so they can put that data out. And then it's on the homeowners and the voters to look at this and say, okay, like what is our government doing, and what do we want our elected officials to be prioritizing?
How is it working for me?
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I do think some of these alders that voted no, they're listening to that. I mean, they're listening to the folks that say, like, I just got whacked with this property tax hike. The last thing I want to do is see like all these other taxes go up.
Yeah. All right. And what is their timeline? When do they have to have it
They
done?
just have to have it, in place by January 1, by the new year. So they can.
With a lot of holidays in between.
They just wanted to get this done before Thanksgiving, I think.
Okay. All right.
But it's not going to happen.
And a lot of people
back to the drawing board.
Yeah, they aren't thankful for that want of giving. Yeah.
Right.
But we'll see how it goes from here. We know you'll be on top of it, and we'll see you tonight.
There'll be
for
some
the Chicago
interesting
Report.
Thanksgiving discussions.
I'm sure. Yeah. You don't want those over the dinner table.
No. Let's watch some winning Bears football.
Let's do that. 3:28. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm telling you, I almost had to extend the break because we were still having conversations with Paris in here about what's going on in the city. But I'm so excited to have this next conversation about a women's pro baseball league, not softball, a women's pro baseball league. Jamie Toole of Golden Rule Entertainment is joining me now to talk more about this amazing announcement and where we go from here. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to come on.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy about this, ecstatic for the young women who will be able to take advantage of it. Tell me about, one, just the announcement today. Has it already been, are we breaking news or you've already made the announcement today?
Yeah, we made the announcement this morning at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum at 10 a.m. It was a great turnout here in Springfield, and we couldn't be more ecstatic to be bringing women's professional baseball home to Illinois. And I say home because history has played quite a role, women's baseball history here in Illinois, way back with the All-American Girls League. And in fact, in 1875, the first women's paid game was here in Springfield. So 150 years later, we're bringing professional baseball back.
Jamie, tell me about how this literally changes the game for young women.
Well, I think what's cool, we're in summer college baseball right now, which is a minor league for men, and it's really cool to see young boys come to the ballpark and see the players and aspire to play at a highest level like these kids. And now young girls will have the same opportunity, which is really cool. As a father of two daughters and two sons, I'm ecstatic that all these young girls will know that they can play at the highest level and they can play the greatest game on the planet, which is baseball. So it changes in so many ways. There'll be little girls all over the world that are paying attention to these elite level athletes. And I really want to stress that these women are elite level baseball players. Going to be an exciting 2026 season here in the capital city of Illinois.
Yeah. How does it change things on down? You know, I mean, bringing professional baseball, but like girls who are in high school would still be in softball. Do we have baseball teams yet for girls in high school?
Yeah, so there's some of that, but there's not the consistent levels as you have on the men's side, right? And to your point, a lot of young girls start out playing youth baseball, and then they navigate over to softball. The goal and the vision of the WPBL is to sort of have a top level league, a professional league, but also help grow the bottom level where young girls are able to play travel baseball, eventually, hopefully, high school baseball, college baseball. So the idea is to develop the entire system. Historically, there hasn't been a professional level to navigate to. So softball has sort of filled that void for women baseball players. Now that changes in a seismic way, and there's a legitimate professional level for baseball. And I anticipate that to expedite the growth of the amateur level.
Yeah, I think it's different for, say like, I remember when the WNBA came about and you're like, whoa, yes. Now girls have something higher to aspire to. And this will do the same thing. I mean, it's monumental really when you open up the ceiling to see that, there's more to come.
Yeah, I've been working in baseball for 27 years, and it's as easily my favorite day. This is such a cool, transformational moment where we are blessed. I have a saying, divine intervention is undefeated. So we are very blessed to be a small part of hosting this first season. But to your point, I really believe this changes everything for young women baseball players, young girls that now can aspire to play at a professional level, which is really, really cool. And, the growth of the WNBA, certainly over the last couple of years, they've been around for 30 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully the WPBL can, shorten that time gap. And I do think there's a support. I think there's a lot of interest. We've been overwhelmed with calls today from folks all over the country that are wanting to hear more about this, and that's a healthy sign as we go into 2026 in this inaugural season of the WPBL.
Yeah, I can only think of like the tournament, the NCAA tournament that's always in for softball, that's always in Oklahoma City, I believe, and how much support it gets, and like seeing something like that multiplied for pros.
Yeah, well, and exactly right. I think with college baseball, it's Omaha, and then with the World Series for Major League Baseball. But now to have the WPBL, and their initial markets are New York, Boston, LA, and San Francisco. But to have those clubs competing here in Springfield next week is such an honor for us. Also, this Thursday night is the first ever women's professional baseball draft. So how
Oh,
cool is it that Thursday
wow.
night these ladies will be drafted to those teams, and all those teams will be competing here starting August 1st, 2026, here in Springfield.
Oh my. I mean, I really can't put into words how exciting these types of moments are to me. And if you could just go back and like relive your life, but whatever.
Yes,
Um,
that's right. You're right.
it gets me excited for the next generation of young women for sure. If you're thinking about the growth, and yes, I think that when you look at the WNBA and the growth that it's had, it should make it easier for you all. Or if you look at other leagues, like we're now starting to see women's football, flag football, and how that's kind of coming along. There are just so many new opportunities that are coming out for these young women.
Absolutely. And I think it's a legitimate source of entertainment. And, I think the key is when you look at the NFL or the NBA, and those are forms of entertainment, right? So they're businesses first. They have to draw fans, they have to draw
Sure.
eyeballs. And I think the women are doing that. They've changed the game. The WNBA is just at an elite level right now. The NWSL is really on fire with interest and expansion. And we certainly hope that for baseball, the WPBL can serve that same type of a role. And I think you're spot on when you mention a groundswell of young women that now have an opportunity to play baseball, whereas before, maybe they weren't afforded that opportunity. So just a monumental, great moment for baseball, but also for us selfishly here in Springfield at historic Robin Roberts Stadium.
Yeah, it is the literal if you build it, they will come. I know. I know that you will have stands that are full of people wanting to see more and more as time goes on. Okay, give me maybe a overview of what this first year will look like.
Yes, so it's my understanding they're going to play a 7-week season. It'll all kick off here on August the 1st. All of the games will be played here at Robin Roberts Stadium in Springfield. I believe there'll be a 35 to 40 game schedule, I think Wednesday through Sunday each week, followed by a postseason. So these women and their families will move here to Illinois for that 7-week period of time, and we can't wait to host them throughout our region. It's a really cool year for this to be happening, 250th birthday of the country.
Yeah.
100 years of Route 66, which runs right through Springfield here. And then the first season of the WPBL. So it's a really cool thing coming in 2026. And I think that's the layout for this first season. And we're excited to be able to host that.
Mm-hmm. And I know I'm already talking about expansion before you even get going. But when do you think we'll see a Chicago team?
Hopefully sooner rather than later, that's for sure. So certainly Chicago's baseball tradition is not rivaled. To have New York and Boston have a team, I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah,
So
I am.
I think Chicago is certainly in short order. We'll get a PBL team. I think you're going to see an enormous amount of growth for the league. These folks they're organized, they have a vision, and more importantly, they're creating a great deal of buzz for young women all over the globe, not just in the United States. Several of these players that'll be drafted Thursday are from all over the globe, Japan, Mexico, Canada. Those folks are all coming here to participate. And that's just such an exciting deal that we get to showcase Illinois, showcase, the capital city here in Springfield. And hopefully soon there'll be a professional team there in Chicago where we can all come up and see that team play.
Absolutely. But we'll go down to Springfield for now. It's fine. It's fine.
That's right. Come on down. We'll give you a horseshoe.
Let me ask you this. I feel like I have to ask you about pay scale. I feel like whenever we have leagues that are set up for women, or when we see something new for women, that always becomes a bit of an issue. Have you all tried to address that from the outset?
Well, I don't work for the league, so the league did put out today, I believe it's a $90,000 salary cap per team over that 7-week season. I'm not exactly sure how that equates with each player. I believe it's a 15-person roster for each team initially. But certainly, that'll be an important topic moving forward. And that sort of therein lies the issue. You have to have the eyeballs, the fans, the sponsorship to be able to accommodate that. And it's exciting to see how that has, escalated in the WNBA, the NWSL, and certainly women deserve every right to be paid for their athletic ability. And I just can't wait for people to see how talented these young ladies are. And I believe in my heart that this is sustainable, and I believe there'll be, in years from now, we'll look back and have been a part of starting something super special, and these ladies will be compensated at a high level. But I know you can check with the WPBL Direct. I know there's a salary cap for each team planned for the inaugural 7-week season.
And have you all, when you're looking at the league or the viewership going forward, have you all inked a TV deal or anything like that where people who might not be able to make it to Springfield can watch?
Yeah, I know the league, the WPBL, is working on a streaming partnership as we speak.
Okay.
I anticipate that to be in place within the next couple of months. A lot of excitement. Today was sort of the beginning of a really, really busy week for the league with the draft coming this Thursday. I think you're going to see the interest significantly grow now that they have a venue. We anticipate having a schedule out here in the next couple of weeks, and then season tickets for the inaugural season will go on sale approximately December 1st. So now that we've had the press announcement that the inaugural season is coming home to Illinois here in Springfield, I think you'll see a lot more news come out quickly as we head towards opening day 2026.
Well, look at Illinois doing great things again. Thank you so much, Jamie, for joining me to talk about this wonderful, beautiful moment for young women and for these pros who are ready to take over. We appreciate you.
I appreciate your time. We got to get you down here to throw out a first pitch. And
oh, man.
Who knows? You throw it hard enough, you might be on one of these teams. You might be leading the charge.
You know what? I'll tell you that I did a first pitch one time that I'm glad I don't have video of. Thank you so much, though.
Thanks for your time.
All right, take care. 3:44 right now. We'll be right back. 346, and Tina Wynn is in the house to talk about the Bears' winning ways. Thanks so much for coming up.
Oh my goodness, thank you for having me. It's Victory Monday.
It's Victory Monday,
The
and
city
I was saying,
is buzzing.
Redemption Monday too, coming off of the Vikings.
We like
you know,
that. We've been trying to think of like nicknames. Obviously, the comeback kids. I think I saw like cardiac bears too and everything. I'm
'Cause
like
they're giving all of us a bit of a run
Yes.
for these last several weeks. You
Yes,
know,
last
where we
2
kind of
weeks.
wonder what's going to happen in the game.
I know, but we've seen in 5 of their last 6 wins, they've come from behind.
Uh-huh.
So this is a team that when you know that the ball is in Caleb Williams' hand last second, it kind of reminds me of like even watching like a Patrick Mahomes, right? You have so much confidence that they're gonna win the game.
Find a way to win.
Yes.
Find a way. And what did they keep saying? Believe. So you just got finished listening to the coach.
Yes, Ben Johnson
Yes.
did his Monday media availability with us. And yeah, I mean, talked about a lot similar to what he talked about last night, right? But this time got to watch the film. One thing he talked about with Caleb Williams was just the completion percentage going into this game. Obviously, Caleb Williams didn't have his best game, but I think overall, like, you're seeing we're 10 games into the season. I was actually talking to Paris Schutz because I saw him coming up here. You're seeing moments where he's growing. Like for instance, I was telling in Paris the check down Nicole Komet. You know, there are moments where even when you hear Caleb talk, right, he's understanding Ben's offense more, the terminology too, the intent behind why he's calling certain plays and everything too. So 7-3 right now. The Lions lost last night
Yes,
too. So
I said,
the
I
Bears.
wonder how many people were watching that game?
Yes.
Like, are we we're in first place?
I know. Sole possession of first place now in the NFC North at 7-3.
Wow.
I know, and we've got 7 games left in the season.
Okay,
too,
now these
so-
are 7 big games.
Yes, 7 big games. I believe only one opponent is below 500. So yeah, this is going to not be an easy schedule, but this upcoming Sunday, by the way, Bears Game Day Live, Luke Canellis, Anthony Herron, Cassie Carlson, and I will be out there on the Waldron deck. So for people that are watching, that's going to be going
Rain
to the
or
game.
shine,
Yes, be sure
cold
to
or
come by,
warm.
say hi to us. We
Probably
love
cold.
seeing you guys too. But I mean, even this week, right? Steelers right now, TBD on Aaron Rodgers, and he got a small fracture in his left wrist yesterday. Last I saw, he's 50-50 for Sunday. But either way, I mean,
And who's his backup?
Mason Rudolph. But
I
you know
remember
when you
Mason.
face you know when you face a Mike Tomlin team, right? They're going to be coached hard. They're going to play hard and all that stuff too. So yeah, the schedule's not going to be easy, but you've yet to play Green Bay, and Green Bay to me is kind of interesting too. I've said it before. They're consistently inconsistent. Yeah, Josh Jacobs got hurt yesterday. Jordan Love too didn't look his best. So although like defensively, right, they've got star players on that defense, but have yet to play Green Bay, and then.
The Browns, and the Browns are like down.
Yes.
They're going through that whole roster of
The
QBs.
Browns, and then yet to play the 49ers too, and then you play Detroit very last week, and who knows what Detroit will they be sitting, you know, most of their stars and everything. So yeah, 7-3 right now. I know there's some talk about could they make the playoffs, right? You know,
that's big talk.
I know, big talk. Ben Johnson was asked about it on the media availability. Obviously, he gave us, in a sense, coach talk. Like right now, we're focused on this upcoming right and being 1-0 on Sunday. So yeah, I think it's so fun just being around these group of guys, especially on Fridays up at Hallis Hall. Like, the mood's typically very light, right? It's a Friday. They're getting ready for the game on Sunday and everything too, but it's still a very, very determined and very focused group. And I think that shows you the Ben Johnson effect, right? That we've seen in the locker room, the culture that he's building here, the standard that he's setting, but also so too you're seeing on the field. I mean, 7 wins, surpassing last season's win total, but just the numbers offensively as well, a lot better compared to last season.
He gave 3 game balls yesterday, right?
Yes, Kevin Warren.
Because it's his birthday today, right?
Yes, and he also has some history there in Minnesota too. Kevin Warren, Devin Duvernay. I actually talked to Devin a few weeks ago in the locker room. He went to Texas and I went to A&M, so we were beefing a little bit. Devin Duvernay, because he had the 56-yard kick return there to ultimately set up Cairo Santos, who also got a game ball too, and
Deservedly.
he missed a 45 yard field goal earlier in the game, but came back, kept his focus, trusted his process too. I don't know if you saw, but Tom Rinaldi did an post-game interview with Caleb, and Caleb was like, no, Cairo Santos was right by him. He was like, no, I want him in this interview with me too. So a lot of support for Cairo Santos too, but 3 game balls given. And also too, the good, better, best speech that we hear from Ben Johnson. That's one thing I look forward to after a Bears win, because you know it's going to come with a lot of energy and everyone's going to be super amped up in the locker room too.
If anything, I mean, I think obviously the wins, we want a W. We want a W. They haven't been like convincing wins where
dominating
you say, like,
wins. Yeah.
We haven't gotten to that point
The
yet.
killer, Ben Johnson calls it the killer instinct, the killer mentality. It reminds me a bit, I was going to say, literally, it reminds me of the Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality, right? Where they can play with a lead and actually protect it. So I know it's sometimes, we were talking on CST last night, is it luck? Are they good? And I said, large in part, I think some of this is also luck. It can be both, right? Obviously, when you watch the team defensively, right, they're dealing with some injuries. They've been dealing with that throughout the whole season, but you have to give a ton of credit, right, to Dennis Allen and some of those guys like Kevin Byard, Tremaine Edmonds. Those guys are top three when it comes to intercept. Yes, and then Nashawn Wright as well. He got an interception yesterday. I know that was emotional for him too, because his former coach John Beam had passed away recently. But when you look at like defensively, right, there's some flaws on the defense, but
we're getting
these
healthy.
Guys, yes, Jalen Johnson, they opened up the practice window for him. Kyler Gordon, he could come back this week against the Steelers. I believe week 12 was the kind of the window after being on IR. And then TJ Edwards too. He had hand surgery about 2 weeks ago, dealing with a hamstring injury as well. But they said should be able to put a cast on the hand and should be okay. So they can get those three guys back. I mean, those right there are impact players. But I was going to say Dennis Allen having to rotate guys in and out, right? Dealing with injuries all season long. They've done a good job of just keeping up the standard, but also the takeaways. 22 so far this season.
And you see the difference, and I think they've mentioned this about games when, they were behind, but maybe last season or even the season before, they would have counted themselves out, where they really at least stay in the fight now.
When I was up there on Friday, I talked to one player and I asked him, what's been obviously the biggest difference so far this year? And I told him, like, don't give me the answer that we've all heard about, right? Ben Johnson, you know, bringing in this new culture and standard. He's intense. Like, we know that. But I looked at him and I said, really, like, you know, give me something that you feel like is so different from this year. And he said last year, obviously, when they were on that 10-game losing streak, it was as if, like, guys were kind of afraid to make a big play because they didn't want to be the one to mess it up. But he said, like, this year, we believe that any one of us can go out there and make a big play, make a game-changing, momentum-changing play. So I think that right there is just a credit to just the culture and the standard and the belief, too, that Ben Johnson and the confidence that he's instilled in this group of guys.
We were just speaking with someone about the Women's Pro Baseball League that's coming to Illinois. And one of the things that he said was, like, divine intervention. You know, there's no difficulty in divine intervention, if you will. But when you think about, like, somebody, these impact players that go down, it kind of forces everybody else to have to step up.
It's like it's the next man up mentality. It's the next man up mentality.
Which ends up helping them overall because they have been able to rotate.
Next man up mentality. We've certainly seen that with the defense, with all the injuries that they've had to deal with. But Nashawn Wright, I think, is kind of an example like that, right? Secondary's been banged up, but again, having that next man up mentality. CJ Gardner-Johnson, the game previously, he got the game ball too. I knew it meant a lot to him as well. But just coming into this locker room, obviously being familiar with Dennis Allen, having a history with him helps. But he talked about how much just being in this locker room and the confidence, the belief that this group of guys is giving him to, and kind of helping him find love as well, again, for football. Cassidy Carlson, by the way, did an awesome interview with CJ Gardner-Johnson. It's on our Fox YouTube channel, Fox 32 website as well. So a lot of good insights, and he really opened up just about what being away from football, kind of how it's given him perspective, and even talked about going to therapy too, and how that's helped him too.
Because it's such a moment for a young man. I mean, if you've been playing since you were a peewee, and everyone wants you, and then you have to sit out and wonder, why don't people want me right now? That's a biggie.
No, for sure.
Tina, thank you so much. I know you got to run downstairs to get ready for the 4 o'clock. We'll be right off the top of the 4 o'clock, so thank you for taking time.
Oh my goodness,
for
thank
me.
you for having me. Always
Appreciate
a pleasure.
It. All right, we'll be right back. everyone. Let's take a look at the big board today and see how stocks did before we get out of here. And for the 4 o'clock to begin, oh my, this isn't the way you want to begin your week, everybody. The Dow is closed now, and you can see about 557 points down here. So I'm kind of reading over what's gone on today. And they say that stocks pulled back, plagued once again by declines in tech. Also, Wall Street waiting for key releases that are coming later this week. That would be NVIDIA earnings and also the September jobs report. That is a biggie, but lots of red here on your screen. The Dow Jones lost 557 points. That's about 1.18%. Let's see, S&P 500 sank 0.92%. The NASDAQ composite went down 0.84%. So there's a lot going on here, but that jobs report will be a big.
From Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Right now at 4, Texas National Guard troops are expected to leave Chicago.
A mother in active labor is turned away at a hospital in Indiana only to give birth in her car minutes later.
And President Trump does a 180. He now wants Republicans to vote to release the Epstein files. Good afternoon, I'm Terrence Lee.
I'm Dawn Hasbrook. Sylvia has the night off tonight.
All right, weather is first at 4. Let's take a live look outside. Really don't know what's going on except for the fact that it says it's like below 50 degrees. Is that say 46?
Yeah, not very warm. But you know, I always try to put the numbers in perspective for us.
Okay.
And average high temperature for today's date is 48 degrees.
Oh.
So a lot of us were pretty close to that. You know, we were just very spoiled for a while. But yes, it's chilly out there, and now we're tracking some rain going into your evening. So we have scattered showers that are trying to approach the Wisconsin-Illinois state line there, right around Lake and McHenry County. I doubt a lot of this is even making it to the ground quite yet, but again, we do have showers in your forecast going into this evening, but especially through the overnight, and then that's going to linger into tomorrow as well. Your temperatures right now, we're down to 41 degrees in Michigan City. It's 46 at O'Hare, 42 in Waukegan, 48 in Joliet, same thing in Rensselaer, 47 in Kankakee. Here's where we're headed. So we're going to stay cloudy throughout the evening. We'll have scattered showers moving in. Temperatures are going to drop down to the low 40s by about 9 p.m. Eventually tonight, we're planning on lows that are going to be in the 30s. However, we stay above the freezing mark, so most, if not all, of the precipitation, it should be in the form of rain. I'll have your full forecast coming up.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson's proposal for corporate head tax has dealt a major blow today.
City Council members sent a clear message they do not support it. Political reporter Paris Schutz has the latest.
Yeah, Dawn and Terrence, the mayor wanted to have his budget approved this week, but City Council had a different idea. Members of City Council's Finance Committee voted down the mayor's controversial employee head tax today by a wide 25-10 vote. It was part of a vote on the mayor's entire revenue package, which included, by our count, more than 20 different taxes and fees going up. But these 25 alders made it clear there will be no tax hikes unless there are more spending reductions.
Ask them if they support raising property taxes in Inglewood and North Lawndale. Ask them if they support collecting a grocery tax. Ask them that. If you ask me, I guess what I'm going to tell you? I'm going to tell you no, because I believe in being straight up with the people of the city of Chicago. There are two options here. We challenge these big corporations and the ultra-rich to put more skin in the game, or you ask people who are standing in line for bread, milk, and food and clothing, ask them to put more skin in the game.
Now, that's a frustrated Mayor Johnson after this vote today, saying, well, alders, if you have better ideas than the ones I proposed, come and talk to me. Now, it came today after furious budget changes at the last minute, arm-twisting, backroom meetings, and it comes as Cook County property tax owners, as you see there, are opening their bills, and residential homeowners on the south and west sides are seeing historically large increases, partly due to a decline in values in the loop. So that means everyone else has to make up the difference. But Mayor Johnson says it's further reason not to propose any city property tax. The alders that voted no today say, well, they got ideas.
I want to make perfectly clear that this committee right here is willing and able to stand and work with the mayor to come up with a balanced budget. The notion that we are not bringing ideas to the forefront is a farce. We are willing and able, anytime, anywhere, we will meet to help pass a responsible, balanced budget. We just want cuts and efficiencies.
So the mayor today, because of this loss, is calling for a pause on any votes on the budget. Let's regroup. Back to the drawing board. He is sticking strong that he wants that employee head tax, but these 25 alders sent a very clear message that that's going to be very difficult to get done. They just have to get this budget passed by the end of December. And Terrence will have more tonight at 10 on the Chicago Report.
All right, Paris, thank you so much. Much needed relief for travelers. The FAA this morning started allowing commercial airlines to resume their regular schedules, lifting all restrictions imposed during the government shutdown.
Travelers at O'Hare, where flights have been reduced the past 10 days, were relieved to hear the news this morning.
I'm very relieved, very, very relieved. It's Thanksgiving, and also we have another grandbaby on the way.
I was definitely nervous because I'm flying to Sacramento, which would have seemed like a very low-hanging fruit flight to cancel. Yeah. I don't know how many people go to Sacramento in November, but it's for a business trip. So yeah, I was really nervous.
Despite the shutdown ending last Wednesday, the FAA says the cuts are temporary, still in place for a few additional days, saying it was necessary to allow airports time to staff back up.
I'm just happy that things are getting back to normal. It was a headache. It cost me time. It cost me money. So happy to be back in the friendly skies, a little calmer now.
The return to normal coming just in time before the Thanksgiving holiday rush, starting next week when a projected record-setting 81 million Americans are expected to travel. And while flights are taking off, most of the federal government is running on autopilot. Another potential government shutdown is looming when the temporary funding extension expires come January 30th.
President Trump says he has nothing to hide and is now calling for the House to approve the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Rebecca Castor reports.
After months of pressure, House lawmakers will take a vote Tuesday that could ultimately force the Department of Justice to release everything it has on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
I will be voting for it, but to be clear, I think that the American people understand that right now, everything that the Democrats have tried to say that, Trump was somehow implicated is completely false.
President Trump maintains he knew nothing about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, despite the two of them being friends for a time. During his campaign, Trump supported releasing the Epstein files, but then flipped, calling the investigations a Democrat hoax and slamming Republicans pushing for their release. But tired of Epstein dominating the news, he's flipped again and wants Republicans to vote to release.
And I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done. We have nothing to do with Epstein, the Democrats do.
This is clearly a jujitsu move by the president in his continued cover-up of these files. He is already under a legal obligation to produce these files to Congress and has not complied with the subpoena.
With the DOJ re-examining the Epstein case, the president also wants prosecutors to take a closer look at Democrats who spent time with Epstein.
We're going to continue to find out if there's anybody responsible, anybody that hasn't been held accountable. And if they're out there, we'll find them.
Even if the House votes to release the files, it's unclear if the Senate will do the same. And ultimately, President Trump still has veto power. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox 32 Chicago.
Indiana Governor Mike Braun is urging legislators to pass redistricting maps after a phone call with President Trump. Braun posted on X this morning, writing in part, "I just had a great call with President Trump. I told him I remain committed to standing with him on the critical issue of passing fair maps in Indiana to ensure the MAGA agenda is successful in Congress. Indiana state legislators must show up for work and take a public vote for fair maps to counter the gerrymandering in California and Illinois," end quote. The message comes just days after the Republican leader of Indiana's Senate announced that his chamber will no longer meet next month to vote on redistricting, citing a lack of support despite pressure from the White House.
A lawsuit over conditions at the Broadview ICE facility has been granted class certification. The lawsuit filed by two former detainees alleges deplorable conditions on site, including clogged toilets, no access to showers, very little food and water, and no contact with attorneys.
Members of the National Guard in Texas are leaving Illinois, and Homeland Security is closing its makeshift command center at Naval Station Great Lakes. The move comes as the federal government winds down its immigration enforcement campaign, Operation Midway Blitz. The Texas troops were never deployed locally due to legal challenges and a federal judge's order that blocked President Trump's order.
The Trump administration is expanding its immigration crackdown, launching Operation Charlotte's Web over the weekend.
More than 130 people have already been arrested. Chelsea Torres is live. And Chelsea, this is similar to the efforts that we just saw here in Chicago.
That's very true. Terrence, Dawn, DHS says that this crackdown is a promise to keep Americans safe. Now, officials have already said that federal agents arrested 80 illegal immigrants just on Saturday alone. And some of these arrests that we've seen have criminal records, including known gang membership, aggravated assault, and even illegal re-entry after prior deportation. Now, the Department of Homeland Security and Border Patrol agents made arrests outside of businesses. They made them outside of grocery stores and even outside of a church. DHS says their operation targets criminal illegal aliens who came to North Carolina because, quote, sanctuary politicians would protect them.
Charlotte, over a period of years, had over 1,400 immigration retainers that they failed to honor. They're not going just to ignore immigration law. If you came across the border illegally, you are subject to obviously being picked up and then eventually removed.
Now, some local leaders are also opposed of the federal response. Even city and county officials made a joint statement right when the announcement came that Border Patrol was coming to Charlotte. They said that this is causing unnecessary fear and uncertainty. Even local faith leaders are even making comment about the operation. I spoke with one pastor today, and he said he's already seen a 50% decrease in his church service. They also provide resources for dental and health, and they've already seen clients cancel. And he said that he spoke to some families who are U.S. citizens, and they say that they're just too afraid to go home. They're not even letting their kids go to school right now. Terrence, Dawn.
Thank you, Chelsea. Other news are following today. Reverend Jesse Jackson remains hospitalized. His family sharing an update this afternoon saying that he is stable and in good care. The civil rights leader was hospitalized last week with a rare neurological disorder, progressive supranuclear palsy, or PSP. It affects body movements, walking and balance, and eye movements. Over the weekend, the family issued a statement dispelling rumors that Jackson was on life support.
The Bears take first place in the NFC North.
Pulled a last-second win against the Vikings yesterday. Tina Nguyen joins us live in studio with the latest.
Yeah, guys, you can call this luck, magic, maybe even survival, right? Bears have won 3 straight. 5 of their last 6 wins have come from behind. The comeback kids, if you will. Just when we thought it was week 1 all over again, where the Bears gave up a double-digit lead in the 4th quarter, Ben Johnson and company escaped at the last second. But this time, shout out special teams, Devin Duvernay there with a 56-yard kick return, ultimately setting up Cairo Santos, who missed a 45-yarder earlier, booted the game winning from 48 yards out. A rematch right from week 1 where quarterback Caleb Williams was blitzed 35% of the time. But yesterday, Brian Flores blitzed 62% of the time there. The most Caleb Williams has been blitzed all season long. Still took care of the football. Head coach Ben Johnson impressed with his quarterback.
He kept the ball out of harm's way. He did a great job protecting that football. I can't say enough good things about their defense in terms of how they create turnovers. I mean, they all these forced fumbles, it's by design. You know, it's very deliberate by them. I thought our whole crew did a great job taking care of that football. And then Caleb, in particular, did a good job throwing the ball away when things weren't present. And so that was good to see.
All right, so the Bears host the Steelers on Sunday. Chicago, a 2.5-point favorite right now. How about Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers? Suffered a small fracture in his left wrist yesterday. His status for Sunday still up in the air, 50-50. We'll continue to monitor. Bears right now, as you mentioned, Dawn, first place in the NFC North at 7-3.
Thanks, Tina.
Well, Chicago Cubs pitcher Kyle Hendricks is retiring from Major League Baseball after a 12-year career. He spent 11 seasons with the Cubs, helping the team's 108-year championship drought. In a statement, the Cubs executive chairman congratulated Hendricks on his retirement, writing in part, "The professor was always calm, cool, and collected on the mound, but his great performance has excited millions of Cubs fans. From his outstanding playoff starts in 2016 to his memorable final appearance at Wrigley Field in 2024, he gave our fans sweet emotions. Now it is time for Kyle and his family to make new memories."
Still to come, property taxes and the possibility of tariff refund checks.
The suburbs making headlines with its smooth transition to class, the deployment of the state's largest EV school bus fleet.
And topping off, a brand new health center on the city's west side. The partnership between a local nonprofit and Lurie Children's Hospital that is bringing specialty care to kids in Austin.
Fox 30.
The acting head of FEMA is resigning. David Richardson started the role back in May. His resignation comes as criticism mounts over his response to the floods in central Texas this summer, which claimed more than 130 lives, and takes place around the time that the FEMA Review Council is set to give a report to the president detailing recommendations to restructure the agency.
A brand new health center for kids on the city's west side is one step closer to opening its doors.
The project will be anchored by Lurie Children's Hospital, and that's where we find Casey Cronus live with the latest. Casey.
Hey, Don and Terrence. A few hours ago, a ceremony held at the construction site marked a major milestone for everyone involved. The plans for this project prioritize equal access to specialty health care.
We aren't just celebrating a new building. We are celebrating a promise kept to the people of the West Side.
During a topping-off celebration, community members and project stakeholders watched as crews installed the final beam on the Austin Hope Center. A piece of them will always be housed in the structure after signing their names before it was raised. The project is being co-developed by Lurie Children's and Stone Community Development Corporation and aims to bring crucial pediatric care to families in Austin and surrounding neighborhoods who will now have the option to visit their kids' specialists in their own backyard instead of traveling into the city. Pastor Contrell Jenkins from Lively Stone Missionary Baptist Church has poured his heart and soul into the mission.
This is the name of the building, the Hope Center, right? It is hope for the community, for Austin community, for the families, children, youth, to bring quality health care, to bring access to it, to bring it right here in the neighborhood. It's transformational.
And Thresholds, which offers support to unhoused community members, will also have space in the building. The Hope Center is on track to open next summer. Reporting live from Lurie Children's Hospital, Casey Cronus, Fox 32, Chicago.
This weekend, the mayor's teamed up with Advocate Children's Hospital to make a dream come true.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
And it went like...
Similiano there, 11-year-old cancer patient from Chicago, spent Saturday at Hallis Hall, then flew to Minneapolis for the game Sunday as a VIP guest of the team. Middle schooler and his family got to meet the players, many of whom were in shirts in support of his cancer fight. All right, let's head back outside, get another check of your forecast as well. The sun is set. I like that little sliver.
Yeah. We'll hold on to it, Emily. I know.
Yeah, because that's all you're going to get out.
Sliver of hope.
Right. So we don't have a lot of sunshine in your forecast throughout the rest of this week. We actually have rain that's going to be moving in later on this evening. That's going to continue on and off through the night and then even into your day tomorrow. But we're not picking up a ton of rainfall. You can see here that expected totals for a lot of us are right around a quarter inch. We might see a few locations picking up higher amounts just based on where some heavier downpours set up. But overall, most of us are in for about a quarter inch of rain. Futurecast then taking us throughout the next couple of hours. Temperatures are still going to be in the upper 30s to low 40s all the way through about 10 p.m. or so. And then notice after 10 p.m., that's when we start to see the rain moving in. Brief heavy downpours certainly going to be possible. As far as snowflakes are concerned, there's a chance that we could be seeing a couple snowflakes mixing in near the Wisconsin border, but a lot of us are likely just looking at mainly rain with this event. So tomorrow morning, we're still going to have some scattered showers around, and then on and off through the day, it's still going to be a possibility, but you'll notice that the coverage here, it's really not all that high. So keep the umbrellas handy throughout the day tomorrow, whether you're heading out in the morning or even in the afternoon. We're still going to have that chance of rain, but it's not going to be an all-day rain that we have for your Tuesday. Temperatures tomorrow, we're only topping out in the low to mid 40s, so it's going to be running cooler than average. For tonight, 39 degrees. We'll have east-southeasterly winds 5 to 15 miles per hour. Your 5-day forecast, best chance of rain tomorrow is going to be during the early morning hours, and then we're just scattered throughout the day, a high of 43. On Wednesday, we're mostly cloudy with a high of 47 degrees, and then Thursday,